Well, hello and welcome to Zwift Knockouts, an exciting new test series for Zwift featuring short, sharp, exciting head-to-head racing between the best esports athletes on Zwift. I'm your host, Dave Toll, and with me today we have our lead commentator, Nathan Guerra. Nathan, Zwift Knockouts is something we haven't seen before at this level. We've made it into our final week of racing. Two men's teams and two women's teams have survived to this point. They are the gladiators in the arena. Talk to me about how excited you are to be into our finals here today.
What I'm really excited about is the introduction of this format that Zwift is bringing here and showcasing for us over the last 3 weeks. We've seen some very high-intensity competition with the way that these races have been designed. The way they've been designed is to try and make sure that the battle is on at each and every sprint banner, each and every lap banner, so that there's a lot of high stakes for the racers as to whether or not they put everything in that they've got for those moments to make sure that their teams, as well as themselves sometimes, stay in the race. This has created some of the most gripping and on your edge of your seat type moments that we've seen in esports racing when it comes to Zwift racing. Because this race is continually coming at the racers, it kind of puts them always either in a conquering mode or in a on your back foot mode. Am I about to get, in quote unquote, knocked out? These moments that you see in boxing with this analogy is always about on the ropes. Well, these riders are either on the ropes or you're the one who's about to put that uppercut punch and take out your competition. That's what made this so incredibly exciting. Last 3 weeks, it's been really great to see some of the best esports teams that we've ever seen of all time take on this new format. So absolutely great to see, Dave. I'm really excited to see how this final week for the championship plays out.
It's going to be incredibly exciting, Nathan. We've got 3 different races to make up the final for you here, and that's after 3 weeks of exciting racing just to get here on Zwift. So let's go ahead and take a look at our final teams that have made it now. As you can see on top of the table, it will be today on the women's side of things, Sarah Snowpins versus Team Swedish Zwifters. They had to make it out of the group stages, Nathan, and that was no mean feat in and of itself. They then moved into our quarterfinals. This was an elimination race. We'll have another one of these elimination races to start things off here today, but it'll be squaring off against 2 teams that have already proven themselves in this format. You're looking at master class level racing going on. The semifinals, that was a points race, and that's where we're going to wrap things up here today. Going back to that format, we're slipping a hill climb into the middle here with the 3 events that make up tonight's first ever Zwift Knockouts finalists. So you can see that Sarah Snowpins, they've added a rider that we haven't seen so far. Catherine Curie is jumping into the knockouts, and that is going to be a game changer. One of the best climbers in esports, and certainly all 3 races she's going to have an impact. Each team has 5 riders. Team Swedish Zwifters, they might have the most complete team out there. That's, I think, really been the secret to their success. There isn't a weak link on this long-standing, high-quality team. They just don't miss a step. So we have a lot to look forward to today. Obviously, in this brand new Zwift Knockouts format, it's not just the racers that are learning how the racing takes place, but you as well out there are going to be picking up on a very, very exciting day. We're lucky to have Hannah Walker as part of our team. Let's throw it to her for an explanation of how racing's going to take place today.
The elimination race is in Crit City on downtown Dolphin, where riders will battle each other over 5 laps of the 1.9-kilometre circuit. Eliminations will start the second time through the climb arch and will continue at successive arches until the final lap. 3 riders will remain. First across the line wins.
All right. Well, thank you, Hannah. Nathan, it's a little bit different than what we saw in the original elimination race, as this time it's going to be all about points. You can see the teams. We're locked and loaded. Sarah Snowpins, they'll be featured in pink. You'll see the blue and yellow of Swedish Zwifters, and we're going to jump right into the action. So 100 points for the winner of this race. Now, you're going to have to survive through the eliminations. We can take a deep breath right now, Nathan, as we are locked and loaded. This is not a drill, but this first lap, they don't sprint for elimination, but then we go into a rapid succession of these sprints out here, and we'll whittle it down to 3 riders, and then we'll send them to the finish line. Those 3 riders will be sprinting for 190 and 80 points. 10 riders out on course here, and we'll work our way down, decreasing by 10 points. And then again, that's through 3 races. This is our first elimination. Hill climb to follow, and then we'll have our points race. So Nathan, I'm going to throw it to you. Remember what Swedish Swifters did in the last round of knockouts? They absolutely rampaged that first sprint. Let's see what they do here today.
So a setup situation now. Riders are going to be looking at each other, wondering what the moves are going to be. Morgan Useni on screen now, as you can see her sitting in at 3.3 watts per kilogram right now, 152 beats per minute, keeping that heart rate low as they are about to go into the first little kicker of a climb. No elimination through this section, so nothing on the line as far as making sure they're staying in the race, but perhaps a little bit of a sniffing out where the competition is at, as we do see London making her way. Now Svardström as well. The Swedish Swifters here taking over at the front as Sara Snowpin sits in and perhaps reserves a little bit of energy over this first time over the cobbles. Next time over the cobbles, Dave, though, our first rider going out the back.
You'll see 2 arches, or gantries, as they're called around the world on this course. They're going to become the pinch points out here. It's brutal. Devil take the hindmost. This is, Nathan, a little bit of velodrome racing, obviously esports here. You've got to throw boxing into the mix, as this is Zwift Knockouts, and I'd even say a little bit of a bar fight in this situation out here. This is going to be brutal. Again, nobody wants to be the first rider to get their ticket punched out here. That means you're going to be taking the minimum number of points for your team out of this first race, which would be 10. There's an absolute legend on screen, and one of the cornerstones of the Swedish team, that's Anna Svardström. Watch out for her. Again, one of the savvy riders that makes up this extremely complete Swedish team. Nathan, you can feel it starting to ramp up. Sara Snowpins. This team is again adding Catherine Curie, who's going to be a huge addition for this squad. I'm going to throw it back to you, Nathan. It's hotting up here in Crit City. 5 laps today, and here we go.
And getting into the first lap of the eliminations, not through this banner, but actually up and over the top of the climb. There's Liz Van Holling, one of the favorites to really try and dominate out here today. We saw her making her way through each one of the weeks in the elimination, really being a cornerstone of this team. The question about to be answered for us is, what is this battle really going to be like? Because last week, we saw Team Swedish Swifters just mop the floor right from beginning to end. A little bit more tactical from Sara Snowpins, but still a dominating performance. Are we going to see the crazy watch from Team Swedish Swifters last week really dominate here, or is this going to be really a battle that's going to come right to the line, all going to be answered in just a few moments?
Well, and Nathan, I really think that if you're serious, you get out in front of this one. They say fortune favors the brave, and that's going to absolutely be the case here. So we're going to see riders being eliminated at a rapid rate until we get down to 3. But we are just about to hit that moment now. So here we go, folks. This is the first of 3 races for our women. We're going to run them concurrently, I should say. The riders will have about a 7-minute break between races before they're back for our hill climb. Very interesting format here in Zwift Knockouts. Okay, Nathan, this is going to be interesting now, because losing this first rider sets a tone out here. Coming into this sprint, both teams really want to make a statement. You see the power-ups being thrown up as we hit the cobbles.
Hermanson on the front now, it looks like 11 watts per kilogram consistently from her. Team Swedish Swifters completely in charge at the front of this race, and it is said and done for sure for Cyrus Ryder. Now it is going to be, I believe, Litton on the back of that. 10 points to Litton is what she will be getting. But that is not what I think Cyrus Snowpins wanted to see. Brittany Litton out of the competition now at this point. It's going to be a 5v4 with Team Swedish Swifters taking over from the get-go.
Next rider eliminated will score 20 points. That is below par for what you're looking for here. So we're going to be, again, Brittany Litton was the rider, I believe, that was eliminated. We'll double check that. But Nathan, this is the group rolling along now. It's like Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. and then there were 9. Liz Van Houweling, 4th at the World Championships in esports on Zwift and the UCI, comes in as one of the top riders here. That ghost power-up is a little bit tricky. It's hard to hide in a 10-rider group, but making the most of it here now, as we can see an attack going out of that group. So getting out in front of it is going to be Catherine Curie here of the Ceres No Pins team. Back to you, Nathan.
Curry, nice little move there. I think it is going to secure her this spot, and it looks like one of the Team Swedish Swifters on the back, but London's going to come through at the last second and just nip it away from what it looks to be Jen Reel, I believe, off the back of this race as well. Curie survives, but Jen Reel now also eliminated. 20 points goes to Ceres No Pins, and the points are really starting to stack up for Team Swedish Swifters at the back end of this race now. Catherine Curie off the back for a moment there after that early attack, and the swarm that comes through from a pack after those high speed sprints almost makes her in a back foot. We'll see if she can recover quickly as we head into this next climb, because it's a 3v5 now. This is really starting to walk away from Ceres No Pins, but their strongest riders still remain. I have a feeling things are going to start turning the tables in just a moment here, and Ceres No Pins got a few cards still up their sleeve.
Jen Reel just fresh off of, fresh not the word, must be exhausted having done Belgian waffle ride. She did 220 miles in California, then came back to her home state of Texas and did the Red Bull gravel event there. She's got to be worked after racing so much. So Jen Reel will be taking 20 points, time to refresh and get ready for the hill climb. That's one thing these riders can do, Nathan. If you want to talk about tactics here, we got another sprint coming up. Let me throw it to you. Swedish Swifters have really gotten out in front of this one, and they're catching Ceres No Pins off guard once again. This has been a phenomenal start for the Swedish Swifters here.
Yeah, and it looks like, again, we are going to have an elimination here. Morgan Useni off the back, unable to respond. And the back-to-back-to-back nature here so far of these sprints has shown that Team Swedish Swifters have just shown up with a level above. And excuse me, is that actually going to be Catherine Curie that was eliminated? It looks like. I thought it was perhaps Useni, but it looks like... No, I believe it was. I'm seeing Curie here on the left-hand side. I believe it is going to be Useni here. Curie and Van Houweling are the only ones left, and those are the strongest riders for sure for Ceres No Pins, and they're proving it. But at this point, it's a 5v2. There's so many matches to burn here for Team Swedish Swifters.
Right now, they need to just start working over these two, because Nathan, if they can hold on, Liz Van Houweling and Catherine Curie are the two riders remaining here for Ceres No Pins. Now, they can still collect 190 points, so it's not over, and I think that they're going to start attacking this race with old school fury. Now, get out in front of this, ladies, is what I would be saying, because the Swedish Swifters have been absolutely pummeling this squad, but these two that remain are two of the strongest riders on planet Earth today, and they're finally going to start showing some of the Swedish riders the rear door. Catherine Curie doing just enough now. She doesn't want to overcook this one. She knows she's got a lot.
I don't know.
That might have been
it's right
Curie.
there. It might have been too early, and now Curie on the back foot. I think they're going to roll right over. Is Liz Van Houweling going to be in a 1v5 situation? I mean, we're talking obviously world championship level and ability here from Liz Van Houweling, but can a 1v5 pull this off? And it is. All this weight on the shoulders of one rider, Dave. What is the situation? Van Houweling, TSZ have shown up and shown that they are the dominating force today.
So unfortunately, from this perspective, 10, 20, 30, and 40 points. That adds up to 100 points, which sounds good. It's 100-0 right now, but the problem is that the Swedish Swifters have got all of the points still on the table. The least that they will score here is 50 points. They're going to start stacking up points like cordwood at this point, Nathan. This is a really tough start for Ceres No Pins. I hate to say it, but they put themselves behind the 8 ball. Even if Liz Van Houweling can hold on and collect the 100 points for the win, they're still going to be behind the 8 ball, and it looks like the Swedes are going to pour it on. Now, this is tactically brilliant here. They're going to get after it. Liz Van Houweling is going to continually have to deal with this barrage of attacks coming from the very efficient, methodical, brilliant racing from the Swedes today. Boy, this has been not subtle at all, just a straight up butt kicking from the Swedes right now.
Looks like Van Houweling here, though, she can follow wheels. This is a great point you just made, Dave, because she is going to get through. It is going to be Anna Embreen. She's going to collect some points for Team Swedish Swifters still, but it's not going to be a sweep of the top points. So Sarah Snowpin's seen a little bit of hope here because, again, this is the first of 3 races. We still have a hill climb and another points race after that. And so because of that, there is still plenty of opportunity for Sarah Snowpins to turn this around. It really puts them on a serious back foot. But if Van Houweling can get something out of this and continue to, I mean, all she has to do is follow the wheels correctly here to make it to the second rider left, third rider left, and she's still able to do a lot for her team. Again, tons of points are going to go to Team Swedish Swifters, but there is still 2 races to go, and Sarah Snowpins can reassess and come back to the table with more. But now Liz has so much on her plate to deal with.
Right now, she needs to keep the Swedes racing. That's the main thing, Nathan. Keep them racing and wear them out as much as she can. This is a big, big ask of Liz, but again, she's going to get through this one. She right now, though, is they're going to come through, and obviously another Swedish rider is going to be eliminated. But Nathan, keep them racing and let her team recover as much as possible, knowing that Catherine Curie is going to be very good in the next race. So this is a tremendous, tremendous amount that we're asking of Liz Van Houweling. I'm going to throw it to you, Nathan.
London there out now, as you can see. So we're going to start stacking 5th, 6th place here with Team Swedish Swifters. But we obviously Van Houweling looking for those 100 points, the 10-point difference between each one of these placings. As you can see now, Liz Van Houweling maybe using a little bit of extra energy just to really make sure she secured herself here. The other thing that we do as we look forward to hill climbing here, Dave, there is a reality that the TSG team may be bringing a massive amount of short burst firepower. Well, now we do see kind of a track sand situation, though, here, Dave. This is getting interesting now as she's showing that she can handle these 3.
And now active recovery. This is great for the Swedes. They love this. As long as they can just stay out here spinning their legs, they're going to be just fine for that hill climb here. As a matter of fact, the Swedes right now are stoked. Nathan, they've scored 110 points. They're leading now. Actually, you know what? I'm looking up here at the points on top of the table. I'm basing mine off of just my own hand scoring here, looking at the points that they would have picked up. So I apologize for that. We're going to be looking at the Swedes here, pressing the tempo. They're going to try to eliminate her now, and that'll leave the last 3 spots, all them. They won't even need to race them here. Let's see what she can do, Nathan. Back to you. Oh, looks like she's going to come over the top.
Van Houweling over the top, and she's going to actually outsprint them all to the line. They tried getting the jump on her. Van Houweling, such a smart Zwift racer. She really knows the platform. She has the patience, and she's able to hang on here, still in it for the 100 points at the end of the day for a single rider. Nelly Larson now out the back, and it's a 2v1 situation.
Got to give a lot of credit to Liz Van Houweling here, Nathan. She's doing a tremendous job of taking, at least she's keeping the Swedes out here racing, holding on, trying to pick up the maximum number of points for the last rider left out here. This is it, last lap now. They have done eliminating riders. They're going to go to the line as a group of 3.
Yep, 3-rider sprint now. It's going to be 190 and 80 points on the line for these last 3 spots. So Liz Van Houweling has kept herself in it. And what we saw from that last sprint, it seems to be that she has a massive kick still left in the legs here. Now the jump does come from Lisa Hermanson. Can she follow this up? It's going to be around the corner here on the draft. And it looks like they're trying to set up Svardstorm for the absolute win as she sits in with the drafting power. But here comes Van Houweling with the massive kick. Will Svardstorm come on through, or Van Houweling hold on? And Van Houweling keeps the hope alive for Sarah Snowpins. What a race by Liz Van Houweling, showing why she is the cornerstone of Sarah Snowpins. But Team Swedish Swifters here still with the stacking of the points through, showing up why this is a team competition, 200 to 350 walking into the next round.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal effort from Liz Van Houweling as an individual, but it does speak to Nathan that this is knockout, a team sport. So, wow, okay. Well, we'll see that format again with the men a little bit later. Right now, the riders are going to be recovering as much as they can. This would be your area of expertise, Nathan, as active recovery between these events going to be critical. I would think that even an ice vest, keeping the fan on high is a no-brainer, but anything you could do to keep your core temperature down right now, obviously going to be critical because this hill climb, I guess we've got a lot of things to talk about. With this hill climb having a long neutral section, you're still going to have to ride at 2.5 watts per kilo. We have a bot that's going to pace the riders through the first 5-ish K, little more than 5K, before they enter the Alpe de Zwift proper, where there's about 2.7K of actual full throttle racing on that hill climb. So first, let me circle back. Your thoughts on this 5-minute period or so between races. What would you be doing?
Yeah, definitely active recovery. I'm keeping my legs spinning. You don't really want them to cool down much at all after that kind of a race. You definitely want the blood to keep moving. You don't want to be wasting your energy here. The other thing is that these are high octane racings and race situations. And when you're in a high octane race situation, you're burning massive amounts of glycogen. Every single time that you're punching like that, you're burning tons of sugar that's stored up in the legs. A lot of these riders then are going to be taking on some sort of carbohydrate and water at that point to make sure that that's getting into the bloodstream and supplementing as much as they possibly can, keeping the legs spinning so that that blood's moving through the legs, getting the recovery, getting the sugar back in so that they can get right on into what is going to be one of the hardest hill climbs that they've ever had in their life. So they definitely need to have the really hard efforts left in the legs. So they need to make sure that it's plenty fueled up. So that would be my main focus at this point, is trying to make sure that I've got enough fuel in my body at this point and I'm keeping the blood moving and warm.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, let's take a look at the racing that just played out here in our elimination race. Again, the first of 3 races that we're going to have for the women. The men are probably just beginning their warm-up process now, but we talked about Liz Van Houweling and how she was the last woman standing for Sarah Snowpins, as the Swedes were just fantastic out here, really operating as a unit. Nathan, were you surprised at all to see the Swedes dominating that first 4 sprints out here?
Actually, to be honest, I was a little surprised by how much they dominated all the way through, but we definitely saw last week Team Swedish Swifters show up and do exactly the same thing. The watts per kilogram were just obvious last week, the amount that they have when it comes to a kick. Now, the question is going to be, how is that going to play out in a hill climb situation? But as you can see here, over and over again, them showing their continual dominance of any kind of a sprint situation. We've obviously seen where their talent is out on course now. Will they be able to cross that over, though, to a different kind of racing? That's what I like about this final race series, is that it does bring a breadth of what is the talent for Zwift racing, rather than just really micro-focused on single sprint situations.
We're going to take a look at the points next here after the first of 3 races. So again, not an ideal start for Sarah Snowpins, but certainly the job that Liz Van Houweling did helped out quite a bit. So we can see the path that they took to get here, as both of these teams, now we're actually looking at some of the action that just took place in the elimination race going back. This is the first time the Swedes had to say goodbye to one of their riders out here. It was Anna Embring was the first that was eliminated, and then Sarah London was next, as Liz Van Houweling really got to work swinging that 20-pound sledgehammer. This was the biggest surprise for me, Nathan, when Catherine Curie was eliminated. Did not see this coming.
Yeah, well, I think this may have been a little bit of a tactical move, actually, that ended up not the way they thought it was supposed to be playing out here. So, Dave, the riders there, the way that they played that out, sending Catherine Curry off the front around that corner, we saw this actually in the second week of racing, where the riders were jumping ahead of that snowball effect that you get on that sprint around the back end of the downtown Dolphin. And I think that there was just a bad tactical call there because Katherine Curry had the punch. She just went and jumped out ahead of it. The snowball came, the steamroller came, which was the pack, and bam, next thing you know, Team Swifters just come galloping by. It was more of a timing thing rather than what I think the talent that Curry actually has in a sprint.
Well, now you start to look at, when you talk about talent that Curie has, one of the best climbers in United States racing history, to tell you the truth. If you look at that really elite group of specialist riders, this is her forte. And she'll be looking to, I would have to think she and Liz Van Houweling are looking to go 1-2 out here. The Swedes, though, have proven themselves. Now, going even back to last week, they haven't just been winning by a little. They've been dominating. Socks for Watts got a taste of what the Swedes have been serving up, and it ain't no smorgasbord. It's a pain sandwich. And certainly, right now, I think that if you are Sarah Snowpins, you have to be a little bit concerned about how they're going to be climbing here. Let's talk about the climb. How tough is this? Is Katherine Curry going to just ride away from them today, Nathan?
This is the sharpest part of the climb, actually. Like up front, when you first hit the Alpe de Zwift, it's one of those first couple of turns, they just come at you intensely. I mean, it's just bam, bam, bam. And I really think that the question's going to be here a lot of times when it comes to hill climbing, you've got this threshold at which you go from a puncher to a pure climber, right? And this is short enough, though, that a lot of these sprintier, obviously, we've got some really strong sprinting women. They may still have enough punch, though, for it to be more of a VO2 max, that under 10-minute effort. This is not going to be a longer threshold effort. This is going to be just pedal to the metal, go. What do you got till the heart rate maxes out and then get to the line with what you got left? So I think that there's still, if we're going to look for a chink in the armor, we've got to figure that part of Team Swifters out first, because they may still have a lot left for talent to bring to the line in a hill climb too.
So if you want to talk about a puncher climb, you're talking about 23rd Street in Richmond. That's a puncher's climb. This is certainly not an FTP all-out 30-minute climb like you might see. We're talking about 2.7K. This is where it really, really hurts. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for Watts in this one. It's sort of like the 800-meter in running. And Morgan Useni, a rider on the Sarah Snowpins team, would know all about that. That distance now, it's basically like running the 100-meter dash, but doing it 8 times in a row. That's how bad this is going to hurt. So this is the second of 3 feature events in our Knockouts final. It's really cool the way that the team at Zwift has set this up. And we're really, really excited now because this hill climb is unlike anything that we've seen so far, Nathan. It's mostly been velodrome style events, right? Eliminations or points races. And we'll be back with that points race format for the third and final race to really crown the queens of esports racing in this knockout format. But Nathan, this hill climb, completely different. Any team that you favor here, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think it's or are we going to just see who wants it more? Maybe.
I do think that we're going to see Sarah Snowpins really perform here. To be honest,
this should be their event.
A team of really strong climbers. It really should be. But I do have question marks around Team Swifters. I'm not. The other thing is we don't get a lot of Zwift racing like this, right? We don't usually send a group up a climb like this and watch how it plays out, especially this short of a climb. So this is kind of like a hill climb championship type situation, right? And so it's not
100%.
something we always see, right?
And so, Nathan, I think that I love it. That's what I love about this knockouts format. This is something none of us have ever seen before. And I'm going to put it to you this way, and I really want your honest thoughts as I see that we're getting close now as we've got riders out on course. They're neutral right now. If Sarah Snowpins, this is a big challenge. I'm throwing down the gauntlet, Nathan. If Sarah Snowpins doesn't do it now, I don't see how they think they're going to do it in the points race after what we just saw in elimination, right? They've got to step up. This is what elimination is about. You used the term earlier in the broadcast about on the ropes. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about in boxing. When you're on the ropes, you're in trouble. You got to slip out of that. You're definitely on the defensive, and the only way you win is by throwing a knockout punch. You can't let this go to decision. You've got to win now. Your thoughts? Do they have their back up against the wall as much as I'm saying they do? Talking about Saris no pins?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, that's a massive points difference. You ended up with one rider collecting 100 points, but then it just being completely stacked by the rest of those other 5 riders from Team Swedish Swifters. They have to do the exact same back to Team Swedish Swifters now. They need to stack the top end of this podium across that line, and I think they're going to try and take it to them right from the get-go. The interesting thing about this is the way that the Alpe d'Huez comes at you is that each and every turn, there's going to be little markers at each one of the little turns out there for the switchbacks. So as they go through 20, 21, all the way down to number 16, I believe is where they're finishing at, they're kind of going to have these little flattenings out and like, who's made it? Who's made it? Who's made it? And you're going to look around at, okay, and it's going to be a give and a go, I think, every time they hit that new gradient and kind of almost a reset every time. Obviously, they're going to be dropping riders as they go. I think, though, this is not going to be what we've seen from the points and as well as the eliminations so far, where it's kind of track standing at all or any kind of like looking around at all. I think it's going to be right from the get-go, just gloves off and go for it. Go for the absolute knockout and see who can make it to the top.
You've got to use your head, Nathan, as well out here, because remember now that you've got a very important race coming up 5 minutes after this one ends. So don't do anything more. This isn't about winning by 45 seconds. This is by winning by 2 seconds. Just enough of a buffer that you don't have to panic, but don't do any extra work. Burning extra calories will cost you later. So what a fine line we're asking these athletes to walk right here. Win, but don't do too much. And or even better than win, get the most points that you possibly can. And there's a ratio here of how much work do you do to pick up these points, because you've got to remember the whistle is blowing to start the workday again right when you get home, if you know what I'm saying. A quick turnaround out here. And Nathan, I'm watching the meters counting down. We're about 400 meters away from one of the most exciting moments in esport history. This is the second race of a 3-race esport final in the knockouts format. Nathan Guerra, it's on like Donkey Kong here in about 200 meters. I know you're wishing you're out there racing. These are the teams that are going to be clashing swords here, as Saris No Pins will take on Team Swedish Swifters. It's round 2. They've been called into the ring. Let's get it on. The race is now underway. So Saris No Pins now in the pink and orange. Swedish Swifters clearly in the blue and yellow. Here we go, Nathan. 2.7 miles of climbing to sort this out.
2.7, here we go, and there it is, the marker right from that point. And now, are the gloves going to start coming off? Are they going to go for it right from the get-go? The other thing here, Dave, there is still drafting at these speeds. I know a lot of times, obviously, it's more of a watts per kilogram situation, but you can get a little bit of something still by sitting out. And Van Houweling actually not following the rest of the team. She seems to be marking some of these riders, interesting enough. And right to the front, Catherine Curry, what you predicted, Dave, one of the strongest climbers in the world when it comes to the women's field. Curry goes straight to the front with 6.7 watts per kilogram. Is that going to be, is she going to be able to hold something like that to the top? This is crazy.
For 5 minutes, yeah. I mean, this is one of the best. She's the U.S. national road champion from 2006. It almost seems like another lifetime. Catherine Curry found Zwift because of a broken arm a couple of years ago. It wasn't actually per se COVID lockdown that brought her to Zwift, but recovering from an injury, and she's gone on to really, really shine. She was a very, very active winner in the CRL. She's been a big part of the community, and there's no question that this woman flies like an angel in a shaft of light on her way to heaven right now, as that's going to be Catherine Curry in CAM. She's in Northern California, Palo Alto. the tall tree where she is, and certainly Catherine Curie. Now, if I'm Swedish Swifters, I'm going to let her go, Nathan. Let's talk tactics right now. Why worry about her? If you burn your matches chasing her, that's a fool's errand. You're like Don Quixote going after windmills. Got to do what you can right now, get as many points as you can. And it looks to me like Morgan Yuseni, the distance runner, is also going to be exceptional here. So Sarah Snowpins is back. The Empire strikes back here. It is like Star Wars. It's a trilogy. I don't know that Sarah Snowpins wants to be called the Empire because they're no Darth Vaders. They're pretty nice people on this team, but they're not as bad as Darth Vader for sure. But they certainly are acting like it right now as Catherine Curie is a wattage cottage.
Well, Team Swedish Swifters might feel like it's the dark side of the force with a chokehold right now, though, Dave, as Catherine Curie gives it a go with Yuseni on the front, and they're stacking the front end of this field. Now, there is a reality that Jen Reel is off the back here a little bit, but she is sitting on the wheel, it looks like, of Anna Embreen. And being able to get across the line ahead of Embreen may be the goal there from Jen Reel. Now, around the first corner there, Catherine Curie with a nice little gap. And with that comfy gap, the nice thing about these kinds of situations, when you find yourself with this kind of a gap and you get into your rhythm and she can just start setting at her own tempo and set her own race, she can actually reserve a lot of energy. But Jen Reel, on the other hand, off the back here, now a little bit of the weak link now falling off, and she needs to get back on terms if she wants any more points than 10 to be awarded to her over the finish line. It looks like Reel here going to be having it settled 4:10 as she suffers, unless there's a blow up ahead. She needs to ride her own pace now. This is a hill climb situation, so she rides her own pace. If some of the other riders from Team Swift Swifters fall off, if they're over their effort, then she may be able to still collect some better points. So get into her rhythm.
I'm going to ask my director what to do if I'm Jen, to tell you the truth. I want to be perfectly clear how much respect I have for Jen Reel. She's raced 300 of the toughest gravel miles in America, doing Belgian Waffle Ride and the Red Bull event in Texas over the last 2 weekends. So this poor woman has been through the ringer. If I'm her director now, I might tell her, just cool your jets, just keep the legs turning over. We talked active recovery, and try to get yourself ready for the next race, the points race. What are your thoughts on that, Nathan? Big picture versus the racing in the moment. Sometimes you've got to know when to say enough was enough and move on to the next race. Let's go ahead and move in, though. This is Nelly Larson, Swedish Swifter, that we're with now. So I think that ship sailed for Saris with Jen. This is a little further up the road. Nelly Larson is chasing now second. She's in third, chasing Morgan Yuseni, sitting up in second.
Yeah, this is a good ride by Nelly, sitting in third place here currently, sitting right on the wheel of Yuseni, playing it very smart. I think that she perhaps knows that Curie is gone. Well, is she racing her own race and saying, okay, I'm going to keep it within myself and have a second burst? She's actually going by Yuseni. Yuseni having to respond now up into 6.6 watts per kilogram. Again, they're up into 9-10% gradients right here. They're about to take on the second turn, Dave, and this situation now with Larson taking over in second. I was starting to see Sarah Snowpins stacking this front end of the field, but have they gotten a little ahead of themselves, Dave?
Agreed, Nathan, 100% agreed. About halfway up the climb. So Nelly Larson, who we were just with, this is her teammate, Lisa Hermanson, that we're with. They both look exceptionally strong up and out of the saddle. They're treating themselves like rented mules right now, to be honest. They've got no regard. They're digging very deep, and they're going to turn the tables. I got to say, 100% agreement with you, Nathan Guerra. Earlier, I thought Sarah Snowpins might be riding away with this second of 3 knockout rounds that we've got for our final. Swedish Swifters have responded. They're coming full force. Morgan Yuseni now, I think that if she can get on Nelly Larson's wheel, she's going to be really smart to sit on that wheel and hopefully come around at the end and take first and second. But that's not going at this point. It looks to me like, so this is Yuseni's perspective that we're looking at. Look how steep this is. They're inside of 1K to go. Well, Nathan, again, the points here, you start with 100 for the winner, 90 for second, 80 for third. This is going to be interesting, but not as good. Well, you know what? It is Sarah Snowpins that's going to pick up a lot of ground. Is it enough ground is the question. Back to you, Nathan.
Loving how Brittany Litton here is starting to make her way through the rest of the Team Swifters, because it is 843 meters, but that's such a long way to go still with the kind of gradients that we do see in front of us. As you saw it come down very quickly there for just a moment, but that had a lot to do with the turns and the speed that Curry was taking through. But these next turns are pretty short, as we are seeing here, turn 18. She's got 17 and then over to 16. 2 more corners to go, and she's got a solid 22-second gap. She is not going to be caught here, Dave. Nellie Larson versus Nuseni is going to be the question behind, but that's 10 seconds at this point. So Nuseni and Van Halen now getting together as they allow their teammate that we have on screen here to walk away with this one.
Well, at what point do you say box to Catherine Curie? Because come in, just slow her down a little bit. You've got such a gap now. We want to save you for the points race that's coming up, the final of 3 rounds of this prize fight that we've got going on, because Curie's got a huge advantage. So what you'd certainly say is you can back it off a little bit, just stall the beans a little right now, because we can go from boil to simmer. This is going to be the rider sitting second on course, Nellie Larson. Morgan Nuseni is right behind her. So they could take 3 of the top 4 spots, including the win, which would be huge for Sarah Snowpins. Lisa Hermanson is going to have a tough job trying to track down Liz Van Houweling. Let's go, is what they're saying now with Hermanson, Spardström, or however you would say that in Swedish, and Sarah London. But Brittany Litton fighting back. Look at Brittany Litton in there, moving into 7th place. Gets better and better now. So started off saying, Nathan, very good job by Sarah Snowpins. Then the Swedes looked like they were starting to really roll. They found their rhythm mid-race, but now it's Sarah Snowpins starting to eke out even more of a points advantage. They wish they could stop the race as it is right now.
Litton is really going to have to hold on to this situation here, but as Anna Embering comes around her, it's going to be 2 more turns for this little group. And this is going to be, I think, one of the crux points for whether or not Sarah Snowpins are still involved in this race. At least with it's going to give him a lot more hope if Brittany Litton can take down these 2 riders. This is a ton of points. It's a 20-point differentiation that she can bring back for her team if she takes down these 2 riders.
You talk about the swing on points, Nathan, and you're exactly right. The difference, if she wins out of that group of 3 or is 3rd out of that group of 3, could very well be the difference in what team wins, ultimately the knockout. So boom, out go the lights, as that's going to be Catherine Curie taking 100 points as the first rider over the line. Let's go back now. That was a done deal a while ago. Nellie Larson, Nathan, looks like she's going to hold on for second. Great job here by our production crew. That shows you how steep this is. Boy, that just hurts looking at it. But Nellie Larson, Nathan, is she good? Is she clear for second in the 90 points that go with it? I think so.
Yeah, 15-second gap back to Nuseni, so she has this comfortably. She can just roll across the line easily, save a little bit of energy. Nuseni, though, trying to hold off, it looks like, well, actually her teammate's the one who's chasing, Liz Van Houweling.
That's okay.
So Nuseni is very comfortable at this point as she comes across the line in 3rd place. Van Houweling now making her move and trying to just hold on, but Liz Van Houweling down to 3, 2.8. You know what? Van Houweling has a 24-second gap. She's playing this the smartest, I feel like, out of anyone I've seen so far out on course, because she doesn't need to do any more than 3 watts per kilogram right now. She can almost roll easily to the line, and she's playing this so smart. Just easy going, reserve what I can, because they've got a massive battle ahead of them in just a moment. There's still a huge points differentiation, but they've brought something back so far.
So, Nathan, they did not ask me to write the rule book, which I'm sure surprises you. But one thing I picked up on was that the back markers of this race, you can see 2 minutes there to Anna and Jen at 2.5 minutes. It's very likely that they'll just give those riders their placings based on where they are on course in a few minutes here to expedite the process and move us into the final race here. So I don't have the technical details there, but do expect those riders don't necessarily have to finish to get the points. That's the best way to put it. They might be given the place. Oh, that's close. Brittany get just caught out.
Right to the line. Oh,
that hurts,
man, and that's a pretty big deal right there. That hurts. Yeah, I think this almost evens things out.
Yeah, Brittany's going to end up
So
ninth.
as you can see here, 9th place, for Brittany Litton. So Jen Reel about to finish up here, and there is essentially there's the rest of the Alpe d'Huez to try and, now they don't literally have to climb, but they've got this massive mountain of points to try and take on in just a moment here in the final round of these three, because as Jen Reel makes her way to the line here, it's essentially evened out with the way that Team Swift are stacked 5th through 8th.
All right, we'll update points for you heading into the final of 3. We do have the men coming up. Thank you for joining us out there. Your feedback has been awesome throughout this 4-week, 4-race series. We started with our groups. It seems like a long time ago. As Nathan, we're now sorting things out. We're down to the final round in our knockout series, in our final for the women. It's going to be interesting. We're going to a tried and true format, points racing. For all intents and purposes, once we start sprinting 4 points, that's the name of the game. Double points at the finish. That's important to remember. So you can see some big comebacks being staged late in the race. But typically, the way things have been going, I have to say Swedish Swifters are going to be really, really tough to beat.
The only difference here is that because it's not an elimination race, it's about first across the line for points. And so because of that, if you have some dominating forces, Catherine Curry, Liz Van Houweling, obviously taking on the entirety of Team Swedish Swifters, she can stack the front end of the race. And you saw what she did over the top of the climb just now. She was pulling 2.7 watts per kilogram for the entirety of that turn 16. So I think that they're really putting a lot of chips in the reality that even though they had some eliminated riders and some of the riders on their team might not be able to grab the top points, on the top end, though, they may be able to grab 15, 12, and 10 a bunch of times and then still win the 30 points outright and the 24 points outright. That may be able to bring them within striking distance, but there's a massive gap to close right now.
I think for me, the real learning lesson throughout the knockout series, Nathan, has been it's not about having 1 or 2 exceptional riders. It's about having that depth in team. And having the first couple riders eliminated or not scoring points, that hurts more than having riders picking up wins along the way. So it's filling in those spots that don't really get the glory they deserve in racing a lot of times. The seconds, the thirds, the fourths, those are the women that are winning these races, to tell you the truth. I mean, obviously, the monster points come with the win, but it's the teams that can back that up with other riders up in the top 4 that have been really successful out here. It's not typical racing. That's what's so fun about this knockout series. It's forcing us to think outside the box, reinvent the way we race, and this is where it stands right now. 620 points for Team Swedish Swifters with 480 there for Sarah Snowpin. So when you do the math, it's going to take a very aggressive and strong race from the entire Sarah Snowpin squad. Let's talk about that, Nathan, stepping up in the moments when your team needs you.
The bell lap is what we're out on. Stepping up on the bell lap is going to be interesting because it is not the first lap, but then second, third, and fourth. And the way that they're going to have to step up is stacking the points arch as well as the lap arch for those top 3 spots as much as they possibly can, all the way until the finish arch for 30, 24, and 20 points, double points across the final finish line. Is it doable? Yes. Is it probable? Whew, it's quite the dice roll here, Dave. Look, I mean, 624.80. It's a pretty big jump they're going to need to make, but I think the points are on the table to do it. It's just going to have to be one of the most dominating performances we've ever seen by any team out on Zwift.
Points race format, so very different than elimination, obviously, is the riders will be scoring 15 points for the first over the line. You break it down then with 12 points for the second place rider, 10 for third, 8 for fourth, and then it tightens up, Nathan, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So every rider will score points, but significantly different being in the first 5 through versus the second 5 through.
Massive difference there, and that's really where things are going to add up. And even if you have 2 or 3 strong riders stacking those top spots, I mean, 10 points, 8 points, and 6 still adds up pretty well too. So Going to be a tough, really tough day here, I think, for Cyrus No Pins. The Bell Lap is an interesting one, though. It's a little bit different. You definitely have a couple of it can be, okay, so this is a very tactical lap in some ways because of the way that it comes at you. Going the other direction, those rollers downhill? Well, you're doing rollers uphill into a false flat uphill, not an intense punch of an uphill. So you can kind of try and break things up a little bit more on this lap. There's a sharp downhill down the cobbles instead, and then you roll on through passed over by the lap band or carrying that speed through. It makes it for a very different type of a peloton is the way that it's functioning. So we may see a little bit of different tactic from Cyrus No Pins. I wonder if it'll favor their types of riders rather than what we saw in the last race on Downtown Dolphin.
My thought would be, as a director, or if I were in that role, Nathan, I would look to Curie and Van Houweling in the leadership roles here. And I think the path to victory would be having them be very aggressive, try to put the Swedes on the back foot while their teammates, the Morgan Usenis and Jen Reels, are able to sit on and hopefully sneak around them for a couple of these sprints and grab some points that might be. They've got to punch above their weight, to use a classic boxing term out here. This is your moment. It's called the bell lap. Well, answering the bell is a big part of boxing, right? Stepping up when that bell rings. Well, that bell is ringing loud and clear for Cyrus No Pins. This is the final. This is it. Last race, last dance out here in our women's knockouts final. It's interesting. I didn't expect Cyrus No Pins to be in an underdog situation, but I think that that's where we're at, to tell you the truth. When you break down what's happened here, Kathleen Curie and Molly Van Houweling are going to have to really have a special ride here, threading the needle at 40 miles an hour, if you will, Nathan. Going to be a big challenge for Cyrus No Pins, but they're up for it. I really believe they are. It's going to be a thrilling final to look forward to.
The idea of Curie and Van Houweling going off the front, one thing I would say if I were Team Swedish Swifters is I've had my calculator out, and I'd be doing a lot of math right now. Can I just let them go? Does it even matter? Are we confident that we can stack third, fourth, and fifth? And that's also what makes this interesting is the kind of tactics that you can do now and the gamification side of this to roll the dice the way that you need to. Because if they're confident, they saw enough chink in the armor for Cyrus No Pins when it comes to a sprint situation across the line, 4 points, they might be happy to say, fine, we'll let you guys go, or maybe we'll send one across, but we've got some depth of field here. And as you said, Dave, it is about the depth of the team across the board. Any chink in the armor, it seems like, if you have one or two, the weak link completely snaps the chain here when it comes to these kinds of knockout formats.
Yeah, I tell you, if you're the Swedes, I mean, I'm going to look at it from their perspective now. I want to be fair here and look at it from both sides of the coin. I'm going to do what the Swedes have done traditionally out here, go out aggressively, just smash mouth bike racing. It's not been subtle at all. And they're going to be looking, I would think, to put a couple riders in trouble early and really put themselves in position to be our first ever the heavyweight knockout champions. This is a big one for the Swedish Swifters. This is a team that's been around since the get-go. No doubt about it. To see them here in this format speaks to their commitment to esports racing. And I know a lot of our friends in Europe, in particular Scandinavia, have got to be pulling for this squad. This is what a prize fight is all about. You've got the athletes that you support. They're the gladiators in the arena. It really is true. They're the ones that have to pedal their bikes. They're the ones that are going to be digging deeper than they have in a long, long time here, as this format's going to be thrilling. We're about 2 minutes away from racing. I know that we do have our colleague, Hannah Walker, who's been awesome for breaking down the racing for us. So we'll, in a moment, get to her explainer here. The men warming up right now. I'm sure, Nathan, that they've been watching the women racing here just to refine their tactics, to think about what's going to be coming up for them. We're about 1 minute away from hearing from Hannah. I know everyone's really excited to get the riders on course. Nathan, your last thoughts before we enter the final of the finals. This is it.
What better teams? Team Swedish Swifters, Cyrus No Pins, some of the longest standing teams in the world of Zwift racing. They've really made names for themselves here, and to watch these two go head to head in this new format is absolutely epic. It's really great to see. And Team Swedish Swifters showing their longevity, how experienced they are at this racing format. One of the first teams that had an in-game kit, one of the first esports teams to ever launch, one of the teams that's organized some of the most community racing we've actually ever seen. Huge moment about to happen in front of us here.
Well, let's hear from Hannah, a quick explainer on the final race of the week.
The points race is on the Bell Lap in Crit City with 4 laps of the 1.9 kilometre circuit. Lap 1 is a sighting lap with no points available, but expect to see a high pace from the gun as points will be scored at both the climb and lap arches on laps 2, 3 and 4. It'll be interesting to see what the tactics the teams employ, as there are also double points available on the finish line. As this is the points race, the team who scores the most points wins.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. Really appreciate it. We'll have Hannah back for the men's event. There they are, squaring off for the final time. There's no pins and Team Swedish Swifters. Let's go, as they say. They're out on course, and first images, Nathan, coming in. The Swedes on the front. It's going to be very, very combative out here.
Yeah, and immediately they do take over London, it looks like. A little bit of a chill situation, though, as they take this left-hand turn. I think everyone's going to be watching each other. There's a little bit of a hill climb, and it rolls itself into this false flats. We'll see how the riders take this on, if anybody wants to give it a go. But I have a feeling they're going to be watching each other a little bit here up front.
Lap 1 is a reconnoitering opportunity here. Do some recon out there as we go in cam with Sarah London in her. So that's a proper pain cave right there. Slapped up plywood. One fire extinguisher hanging on the wall, that the only accessory is a fire extinguisher. That's my kind of pain cave right there. That's got to speak to you, Nathan. She's not messing around. She makes so many watts, there's a possibility she'll light her smart trainer on fire.
London spinning it looks like here, 185 watts. And it doesn't look like any extinguishers going to be putting her out so far, though, as Yuseni and the rest of No Pins take over at the front. No points through this first banner here in just a moment. So they're going to do one free lap. Give an idea, though, to the viewers about what this course is all about. This is a false flat uphill into a left-hand turn. It's a blind corner, actually, but and this can be interesting the way you sprint through this, because of that blind corner, you might not have the depth perception about where things are at. So the timing and really knowing this course is going to be so incredibly important. As they head into this downhill, you can attack this downhill and carry some of the speed that comes off of that sprint. I might see some counters through here as they snowball down and get into this flat section. Sometimes, if you roll right on through, you can get a solid gap on the rest of the field.
Points race format underway. You're going to see the tempo start to pick up as the Swedes start moving up to the front here. This is it, Nathan. It's definitely going to be brutal, no question. This is a superstar of Swedish esports. No doubt Anna Svardström here. She certainly is in our Hall of Fame, our legends, as Anna moves up to the front. It would not surprise anyone to see her as our first ever team leader. She's certainly a captain on this Swedish Swifter squad. As right now everybody bracing themselves. It's already been basically an hour, maybe even longer than an hour, to tell you the truth, on the trainer making watts here. It's just the intensities that's been varying. We're about to ramp it up one more time.
About to hit that lap banner. They do take this left-hand turn and then another right-hand turn, and again another blind corner. And when you go for these sprints around the corners, positioning and timing is so incredibly key. As you can see, the place that they took off from with the go sign in the distance there, that is going to be where the pens were. Now it's a straightaway for about 150 meters and then a right-hand turn into a quick little sub 100 meter, I think, or so, sprint for the line. On the next lap, they are going to be sprinting for points here. As you can see, very tactical as far as where you need to be on the road, how you're going to go, when you're going to go to get the most speed through each one of those corners.
I mean, if you just look at this right now, the Swedish Swifters are doing a tremendous job of sitting on the wheel, which is exactly what any director would be telling you to do. So just burning every last watt matters out here. Burning a few less is what the Swedes are doing here.
Cyrus No Pins taking over at the front, it looks like. And Morgan Yuseni, 2.5. Everybody's super chill. They're waiting for the moment. And now things are going to start ramping up in just a moment here. Yuseni's the first one to kick up into 5.2 watts per kilogram for just a moment there. She takes over at the front. And as they start to make this little bit of a hill climb, the undulations are start coming now up into 5 from a few others. Jen Real now starting to lead things out. And they're going to make things difficult for Team Swifters, making sure that they has to chase while the rest of the stronger riders from Cyrus No Pins sit in. Power-ups are already being thrown down. Anna Embring, is she in a bad spot to be throwing this so early, or is that a mistake? As Yuseni goes at 7.5.
All right, well, we've lit the fuse here as our final is underway. Cyrus No Pins is going to try to get out in front of this one, Nathan, but the Swedish Swifters are just sitting there. There's a ghost power-up being thrown, and that's going to be Morgan Yuseni, Liz Van Houweling, Jen Real. Can they hold on? Back to you, Nathan.
Van Houweling, it looks like, is going to take these points down for the first across the line. Svardström coming on through for second. Curry, though, I believe, for third. London fourth. Embring. Oh, no, Svardström nipping Curry at the line there. So the stacking is still there with Litton, Yuseni, and Real. And how are they going to get involved in this race is going to be the big question. As we see those first points come through, the question going through Cyrus No Pins at this point is, how do we get those back 3 riders involved in this race at this point? How do we change up the tactic and not just end up in getting dominating the sprint lap after lap from here on out?
Yeah, see, actually, when you look at it first glance, it looks like Cyrus No Pins got the better, but Swedes picked up more points doing exactly what we talked about, Nathan, stacking those spots in the middle there. So your point is completely valid. How do we pick up those riders that are ending up with the final points out here?
Yeah, I think setting up the riders who are ending up in those back end parts of the field is going to be the question. It's going to be more about finding a way to get them above the riders that are beating them out to stack that middle ground of the points here. Now, this is going to be one of the most interesting sprints and going to tell us a lot about what's going to happen for the rest of the race. As they open things up so early, they are playing so smart, because this is exactly how you do this sprint.
Yikes.
You do it from way out, because this is the turns that make the gaps open up intensely, and they take every spot. First through fifth, complete domination from Team Swedish Swifters. The counter question is really what's on the board here now, I think, because they just used a massive amount of energy, and that's exactly what's happening. Curry goes right over the top, 6.2 watts per kilogram. Litton's there as well, and they're trying to bring one of their riders with them that is not a sprinter. Van Houweling's looking to set up Litton and do exactly what we just said, to get her in a position to get points she has not been able to grab in sprints, and Team Swedish Swifters see it, and they're trying to counter. Can they shut down this amazing tactical move?
3.5K to go. This is your Hail Mary. No doubt about it. It's going to be Cyrus No Pins trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and it is absolutely being snuffed out by the Swedish Dream Crushers out here. They've taken a huge advantage, going almost 200 points up at this point. They're going to rapidly run out of real estate here. 3.2K to go. I don't know that there's enough points left on the table for Cyrus No Pins. Swedish Swifters have been phenomenal here. This is it. This is their last gasp effort going on, and it's going to be Nelly Larson coming up and over the top. So, Nathan, looks like Swedish Swifters won't give an inch.
No, but that was amazing, actually, though. Cyrus No Pins just stacked. It looks like the top 4, not the top 4, but the second through 5th place just now. It worked. I mean, Nelly Larson did just take 15 points, but they were able to get 2 other riders that were failing to grab many points into that top spot. Can they repeat this? Can they somehow get Team Swedish Swifters to chase things down and not have a sprint at the line? I don't know if they got that much power left in the legs after that amazing move, though, by Curie. It might have been too much, but now look at this. Another roll through. Rio coming to the front. Is Van Houweling going to lead Rio out? If Van Houweling now swaps places with what we just saw Curie do and leads out another one of these riders, could they just rinse and repeat? We'll see.
They're going to need to do more than that. They certainly are going down swinging right now. Cyrus No Pins is certainly fighting here as they move to the front, but the Swedes are absolutely locked down here. They're not, again, in any trouble. So Sarah's No Pins trying to crack the code here as we move into the last couple Ks of racing. Next sprint comes up quickly. Sarah's No Pins massing to the front. They got to be expecting the Swedish surge, though.
Yeah, and here goes Curry. Curry leading things out almost here, and this seems to be the favorite spot for Team Swedish Swifters. They just got the punch. It's the flatland situation here for the sprinters, and they take down the points, massive points again. Curry, the only one in the top 5 now. Will we see a repeat of what we just saw, though, from Sarah's No Pins to try and go out swinging to make sure that they are still in the conversation at the finish line? It looks like TFZ has made it happen, but into the final lap, can this race for pride now, I think, at this point, for Sarah's No Pins be showing off, and what will they be able to stack at the top? Van Halen at the front takes over.
Double points at the finish. Double points at the finish. Is it going to be enough for Sarah's No Pins? Well, one thing's for sure, they're going to need to sweep the podium here to have any chance. Let's see what they can pull off. You said pride. That's a huge part of what bike racing is all about. You've got to have the heart of a lion to be competing, and this Zwift Knockouts has now come down to this. Is it a victory lap for the Swedes? I don't think that they're going to take anything for granted out here, Nathan. Expect them to go full gas out here. It's your final moments of the first ever season, and it looks like we're seeing a flurry of attacks coming now from Sarah's No Pins as they come up very quickly on 1K to go.
Curry looks like they're going to take that down with Van Halen. They back off. They're not going to go on the attack continually. It's going to be first and second there. Kathy Curry, Liz Van Halen. Nellie Larson comes on through with a solid drafting power. Morgan Houston, he holds on over Anders Svartstrom. Brittany Litton and Jen Reel starting to get involved here. This is interesting. We're starting to see perhaps the endurance side of some of these teams. Not sure it's going to make much of a difference. Maybe a little bit too little landscape left to work with, as I believe where the talents of Sarah's No Pins are starting to shine in the back end of this, as there's some serious endurance talent on this team. But the reality is, it seems to me the Team Swift Swifters have locked this one in, and they are all about the punch. And we're into the final sprint here in just a moment with the Flatland Sprinters.
Well, this is a sweet moment for Swedish Zwifting, no doubt about it. A very unique format as our final sprint has engaged.
They're trying to... Here we go, Dave. We've got a huge punch here coming from Curry and Litton, though. That's going to be orange numbers, and they're looking to make the jump. Is it just going to be a lead out for Team Swedish Swifters? But they've got the gap, Dave.
Yeah, so at least they get a nice last moment out here. That Sarah's No Pins team that's fought so hard. Let's see if they can stack that podium. Double points at the finish line, and they're into the final 100 meters. So Sarah's No Pins not going to go down without a fight, but Swedish Swifters, no doubt about it, they are your knockout champions, the first ever in history out here. Liz Van Houweling winning the final sprint. Brittany Litton coming through for a second, but 5 in a row after that. Let's congratulate Anna Svartstrom, Sarah London, Anna Embring, Lisa Hermansson, and Nellie Larson. The Swedish Swifters are your knockout champions, champions of the world here on Zwift. Congratulations, Swedes.
Zwift Knockouts here with our first ever winner in the Knockouts format. One of the longest standing teams ever in esports racing, Team Swedish Swifters. We had the questions coming in. Will the purest sprinters be able to pull it off, hold on over the top of the Alpe du Zwift, and then make it happen in the final crit race here out in Crit City? And they did just that. Tactical, savvy, pure power, Team Swift Swifters making it happen.
That last sprint was actually, Nathan, encapsulating what the entire season was like. The Swedes didn't win the race. They didn't get second. They took 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and that was how they won every single time. They came as a team, they raced as a team, and they won as a team. And I think that is a lesson for everybody that wants to compete in this format in the future. It's all about depth, no doubt about it. The Three Musketeers would have been proud of the Swedish Swifters. I know that they're French. I guess that would be the Hexagon team. that would be looking to rally that type of spirit. And that will be coming up for us. So stay tuned, everybody. Don't go anywhere, as we've got our men's race to look forward to. That one has been sorted out. 868 points when it was all done and dusted for Team Swedish Swifters over Ceres No Pins. A valiant effort there to survive through 3 weeks of racing to make it into the finals was very, very impressive. 694 points for second place there. Big thank you to all of our teams for being a part of our test event. It's hard to believe, Nathan. This seems like a well thought out and many, many years of knockouts, the way things played out. But certainly we're going to be looking now to turn the page to our men's event. These two teams have been through the same process, Nathan. Hexagon, very similar in scope to a team that really started racing in Zwift community a couple of seasons ago. But boy, have they come on strong to take on a team pretty similar to Swedish Swifters, one of the original esports teams on Zwift, talking about Toyota Cryo. Let's just start there. Your first thoughts about the two teams that have made it into our final.
Yeah, Hexagon have kind of just come out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, bam, we're into 2021-22 season of the ZRL, and who are Hexagon is the question that we were asking a lot of times in the community streams. They've shown us exactly who they are, taking on some of the top teams. We're talking about the BZR, Abus Lacole now named team, as well as Movistar. I mean, this is as good as it gets when it comes to making your way through. We had just talked about, the winners of the women's, but, there is a reality that those are the top two teams. They've made their way and knocked out plenty of other teams. It's the winner's bracket, essentially. It's the place where the top teams meet at the end of the day. And Hexagon have proven that they are no longer a community team. They are Premier Division. They have made it to this level and are proving themselves to be almost unstoppable. Against CryoRDT, as you said, Cryogen being one of the longest standing, actually, I think, maybe one of the largest competitive teams out on Zwift. And so they've got a huge pool to pull from, so much experience to pull from. And I know that they have been one of those teams that really bring their whiteboard when we want to talk about tactics and figuring out how everything works. We've seen them week in and week out dominating in the community as well as the Premier Division. And they've brought a lot of talent to the floor here. We're going to see who can mop it with the other as we head into these three races in front of us.
Yikes. You have to look at these two teams, Nathan, from the different perspectives of Hexagon, which I recently learned. Hexagon, I always thought it was just a geometric figure that they're talking about, but Hexagon is how they refer to France a lot of times in France. It's shaped of the nation of France, shaped a bit like a hexagon there in Europe, and it makes a lot more sense when you think about where that team name came from, as well as the fact that I believe every rider, maybe minus one, are French on that team. So there's a national element to that squad, which we see about half of the time, I would say, in esports versus the very international Toyota Cryo team. They are some of the most familiar names in our Premier League, to tell you the truth. Christoph Thiem on the squad. Brad Guveris is a rider who's really come on strong. And Martin Mertens is a tremendous talent on that Cryo team. So some of the newer names for Hexagon, some familiar names, but to be honest, as we're about 3 minutes, a little more than 3 minutes away from having the riders out on course here, I don't know how you could favor one team over the other, Nathan, to tell you the truth. We're going to be going back to the same 3-minute race knockout format. The teams have already done an elimination race in this knockouts, the previous rounds. They also have done a points race, but they haven't done a hill climb. Nathan, I'll start there. Which team do you favor in the hill climb element out here?
Yeah, this is a good question because I think there is a difference between the tactics of these two teams. When we're talking about gaming and esports a little bit here, there's ways that you can just take the match up front in a lot of esports where you're just on the aggression, you're on the offensive. And with the way that Hexagon has ridden and the offensive that they've gone at, the way they've picked apart Movistar felt like by putting them directly onto the back foot and putting them into a chase situation over and over again. It tells me that they've got a lot of really good fitness when it comes to just bringing power to the table, not in sharp neuromuscular punches. I mean, they do have that. They have that in spades. But I feel like they showed that they can bring the offensive and go on the attack to break things apart. That may give them a favor when it comes to the Alpe d'Huez climb. The other question then is, was Toyota RDT holding back? Did they have some aces in the hole that they just made sure that they were playing defensive and just picked apart the other team with big kicks, and they still got a lot to bring to the table when it comes to a hill climb situation? That's the question we have to find out, I think, when it comes to what RDT are bringing against what Hexagon just seems to be crazy strong when it comes to something like a hill climb.
What did the men learn from watching the women race earlier? Was there any takeaway that you think they might have been able to glean from watching the racing out there?
The weak link situation, being able to make sure that you have parity across those third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, that battling for those is extremely important, and setting your riders up as best as you possibly can to not be scoring 1 point, to not be eliminated early. It's really about making sure that those lower points are not stacked with your riders versus making sure the top points are not focusing so much on that, making sure that you're assisting the riders that may be a little weaker on your team to get the most out of what they bring to the table.
Hexagon versus Toyota Cryo. Another epic battle coming up, folks. Thank you so much for joining us here on Zwift. We're tremendously excited for how this one's going to go down. One thing, as we get to know the racers out here, you also have to understand what they have in front of them. And who better on our team to explain things than the one and only Hannah Walker. Hannah has been at the Giro d'Italia every day. It's been awesome having her check in with her informative look at what we've got coming up. So I'll let you take it away, Hannah.
The elimination race is in Crit City on downtown Dolphin, where riders will battle each other over 5 laps of the 1.9-kilometre circuit. Eliminations will start the second time through the climb arch and will continue at successive arches until the final lap. 3 riders will remain. First across the line wins.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Hexagon presented by Ceres. Toyota Cryo RDT. The bell is ringing. They're being called to the course, and we're going to jump right down into the action. Here we go, Nathan. So, again, the 3 different races. Elimination is where things start. A little under 10K of distance ahead of them, but it's the Fury that they're going to be facing here. All right, Nathan, so it takes a few minutes here before we actually are eliminating our first riders. That was the women that we had. It doesn't take long until the first rider gets his ticket punched. This is going to be O'Connor that we're jumping in with, one of the many French riders that we've got out on course. Hexagon, what a ride they've had to make it into our final here.
And it is a free lap up front. It's going to be super chilled. The riders are most likely going to be getting their feel for the course a little bit, really trying to, if I were in a Discord channel right now, most likely the DS is saying, okay, on the next lap, here's the plan. If this rider does this, then you're going to do this. Here's how we're going to take things to you. Whether or not they're going to be an aggressor on the day is going to start being talked about, where they want to be positioned around each one of these corners to make sure they are not the final rider across the line, because so much is on the line as to whether or not you are that 10-point rider. That really sets the tone for the rest of these races today.
Looking at Christoph Thiem, the German rider. Nathan, he looks almost exactly like you when I watch you on Twitch racing. Very upright position. That's got to be for the breathing. I'm a full understanding. I've never really quite gotten the athletes that are in that slam try position thinking, I get it, you're a triathlete, but this has got to be a way to get more oxygen into your system. You don't have to worry about the aerodynamics. Here come the French riders now surging over the top. 0 points scored for either side yet, but there we go. 5 riders remaining for both teams. The first rider gone gets the first points, but unfortunately it's the minimum number of points that you'll get out there. 10 points, 100 for the final rider left.
great point that you bring up there, Dave, about position on the bike. Actually, as we look at these racers, I don't think you're going to see a lot of racers getting into a super aero. They're going to want to make sure that they can get as much out of the full extension of their leg, and a lot of times it is a more upright position that you're going to be able to get out of that. Now, it does train the body a little bit differently, but almost every one of these riders are most likely going to be looking for that because they are esports, genre is what they are focused on. They're indoor specialists, so they're going to be focusing mainly on what power can I get out of my legs. There's no need whatsoever for that aerodynamic position.
100%. And let's be honest, esports is a little bit different. It's not exactly bike racing. It's not an exercise contest. It's this super unique mix that makes it so exciting out here. And this format, our knockout format, we are now underway here with our men's. This is the first of 3 races. Just a quick to bring you up to speed. They do have a hill climb coming up next. There's a very quick turnaround there. It's typically less than 10 minutes until they'll be racing again. The first riders eliminated do have a little more time to kind of chill out and reload, but ultimately it's all about points out here. Cryo is the team with white on their shoulders, the darker blue jersey with the black shorts. That's going to be the Hexagon team. You can see on the bottom there, we meet some of the riders. There's some new, fresh talent on Hexagon. They've been incredibly impressive. We talk about that term coming out of the woodwork. Well, that's no longer current as they came out of the woodwork. They arrived and they have been absolutely top-notch. I mean, you talk about a top-shelf team. That would be Hexagon right from the get-go, and it looks like a surge coming. I'm going to throw it to you, Nathan, as that's going to be Souton attacking now. It's on.
It's covered very quickly there. Souton there right on the wheel of Bart van den Eckhout now, and now we start to open the first page of this book. The story is going to unfold for us, and here comes an invisibility power-up, I believe. Off the front there, Martin Martins gives it a go and gets the jump on the rest of the pack. Will they snowball through him, though? That's a very early jump. Can he hold on? Playing it safe here and using the power-ups to the best of their ability. On the back is Thiem. Will Thiem be able to come over the top? It's going to be between him and Pierre Almeida. Almeida is a monster when it comes to a steady wattage, but he just holds on here, and it looks like eliminates Christoph Thiem. Thiem's going to have to look forward to the hill climb. I think that is his favored position, though, in this race to try and take the points down. So Thiem off the back now and out. Priority T, the first ones, it looks like, here to strike.
That's a shocker for me, Nathan. Christoph is a super talent, but he's going to be super dangerous in the hill climb coming up. You make a good point. But wow, all right, it shows you that everybody is in jeopardy out here. This event so popular at the Velodrome. Any Friday night, anywhere in the world that you go to the track, this is one. We've got another sprint coming up, Nathan, so another rider is already in the balance here. Who's it going to be?
Zeldin's now to the front. It looks like RDT taking over with the Norwegian. And again, Hexagon on the back foot. Lemler here now, followed up by Almeida. And Almeida is going to be eliminated. Also, another rider who does have a very, very solid high VO2 max and FTP. But when it comes to the kicks here, not getting the best out of the situation. Out the back and 20 points for him. But it's matched up now at this point almost. You know, going 1-1 like this is not the worst thing for the teams, right? So it's 20 points to 10 now, 4v4.
Couldn't be closer, that's for sure. So what's different here, Nathan, versus when they raced in the elimination format earlier in the knockout series? That was the second week of racing, just 2 weeks ago, was that the final 3 racers were racing to actually the winner out of those 3 knocked out the other team. Not the case here. They'll be fighting for points in those final 3. But when we do get down to 3 riders, they sprint as a group for first, second, and third. So that's how we fill our podium out here. But another elimination sprint coming up. Oh, man, it is just brutal here, that rush. You never really can feel safe when you're in this group. Back to you, Nathan, for another sprint.
Jeldon's going to be the one to take over here, and there is an invisibility power-up being thrown out by Martins. It's the second time he's got one. He's done this. He's employed this both times through. They get the jump. They saw him go. It looks like O'Connor does follow that up, but it is going to be an easy walkaway here for Martin Martins. It looks like Brad Gavaris perhaps was on the back foot for a moment. It's going to come right down to the Cryo RDT and the Hexagon right at the back there. Yeldon's and I believe O'Connor. No, it's going to be Julian Sutton who just gets nipped at the line. That was a very close one, Dave. That was not a walk away from anyone. Everyone was still involved.
It's a photo finish just from the exact opposite side, as it's the rider who's dragging their rear wheel over the line last. You can actually, it's amazing how close those finishes are. And now everyone's still together. We're down another rider, and that time it was going to be, again, Julien Souton. So we're now looking at a slight advantage here, Nathan, going to Toyota Cryo in the first of 3 races. So just a little bit of an advantage. The points become more valuable as we make our way through the middle part of this elimination race.
This next sprint that's about to open up here is going to be absolutely crucial to keep things even still, and they're really leaving it to the last moment, rounding the corner here, trying to recover. Yeldon's now gives the kick. It looks like Hexagon probably going to get the better of the late kick here coming from Vanden Eckhart is off the back, and there we go. Even it right on up. This couldn't get closer, Dave. What a great race we have playing out in front of us here. Now down to 3v3. Amazing to see these two teams go head-to-head.
To be honest, this is the best elimination race that we've seen so far. What a thriller we've got going on right now. So it's just body blow after body blow between these two teams. I'd have to give Martin Mertens a tip of the cap. He's been exceptional out here. Toyota Cryo's got Havard Gjelnes in reserve, the Norwegian rider who's been a massive talent in the ZRL, and he really hasn't even had to flex yet. So again, very even right now, Nathan. A tough one to call. These sprints just come at you at a very interesting rhythm. This one's going to be huge because we start moving into big points here. 6 riders remain out on course in our first of 3, the elimination race, well underway now.
This is the slowest I've ever seen these riders go, I think. They just did 0.5 watts per kilogram. Yeah, this is really chill. Full reset. We saw Martin Mertens each lap do the exact same thing. He does it again. He's loving this power-up, it seems like. This Martin Mertens using the invisibility power-up, the best we have ever seen it used. Sometimes you think, look, this doesn't give me a speed advantage, but he's gotten the jump advantage every single lap, and he's actually able to cruise across the line here a little bit chill and reserve some energy as Hexagon get put on the back foot and a rider gets eliminated. It's going to be Callum O'Connor.
Yeah, he caught them on the back foot there. That was some brilliant racing, as we're now seeing what Cryo is all about. The experience that the Swedish Zwifting women brought to the table, that experience is also in the DNA of the Cryo team. So Toyota Cryo right now, Nathan, showing us not sleight of hand, but just how esports racing works. It's not straight up bike racing. The power-up elements that you see in play are a big part. Just like in real life racing, you do need a little bit of luck, and sometimes you don't need bad luck. It's all these different perspectives that you can have. I got to throw it to you, Nathan. We got another critical sprint coming up here.
Yeah, and here we go. It's going to be Hexagon with 2 riders left now at this point. It looks like it is going to be to the right, to the line between a little bit of a kick now coming on through from Navarro over the top here. Tony Lemner. Now Martin's looking to hang on, but it's going to be with 1 lap to go. A sprint to the line between Callum O'Connor off the back here. It looks like it's going to be Tony Lemner removed from the race, and now the dominating force of Toyota Cryo team starting to show itself. Experience now coming on through.
I think this is the first time that Hexagon has really found themselves in this position, Nathan. racing for the last year. They've shown up and just dominated. This will ultimately be good for the team. The tall tree takes a lot of wind, and I'd have to say that tall tree is Cryo, and they're taking the wind just fine. They're learning how to flex, bend, but not break out here, as Hexagon brought a massive challenge into this elimination race, but now 3-1. And when you look at it being Martin Mertens, Harvard Jonas, and Brad Gouveris, I would be shocked if they don't crack the code on how to take this down to just those 3 left here. They have a big advantage right now. It's going to be up to, just like we saw in the women's race with Liz Van Houweling. It's
So now looking here, we do see it is going to be a jump to come from Martin Mertens here. 12 watts per kilogram kick. Navarro trying to follow it up here. Yeldins, Gavaris now as well. If they are able to get the Hexagon rider out of the race at this point, they can collect massive amount of points, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be, well, it's coming right to the line. Maybe I spoke too soon. Right there, but no. It is going to be Hexagon still in the race, coming into the final sprint, I believe. It is Yeldins coming on through for last. So now the setup for a lot of points across the line. We saw this in the last race. Liz Van Houweling able to grab maximum points for her team. Can Hexagon still rally and grab the top points across this final elimination? Well, it's not elimination. It's a 3-up sprint for first, second, and third.
It is. Yeah, correct. So attacking out of that group is Martin Mertens. So he's gone, Nathan. It looks like it's going to be a 2-up sprint now, because I don't think that Corentin Navarro is going to want to bring Brad up to his teammate. Might as well square off with him and look to get the second place points that exist out here. So yeah, Martin Mertens, the German, has gone up the road. We're sitting here with second and third, and that's an attack from Brad.
Gavaris 14 watts per kilogram walking away, and Toyota Cryo DT extending their lead. They are going to take the top points in this final sprint. Hexagon will have to settle, it looks like, for the 80 points across the line. 190 there going to Martin Mertens and Brad Gavaris. Big points for Toyota Cryo DT. They've opened it up. It's not as big of a domination as what we saw in the women's race, but still, there's a pretty hefty gap now. I think Hexagon needs to maybe go back to the drawing board and show up for the hill climb now.
The thing about the hill climb, Nathan, is there's just no way to fake it out there. It isn't anywhere near as tactical as what we've seen in the previous elimination race or what's coming up in the points race. This is, have you got it or not? To be honest, by the time they get into the climb, and as you saw with the women, there's a 5.1 kilometer paced neutral section. They'll be going at what for these guys is very comfortable 2.5 watts per kilo average pace. That's actually a pretty fast group ride, to tell you the truth. If you're on Zwift on a Saturday morning, the 2.5 watts per kilo group, pretty strong group. But for these guys, that's a walk in the park compared to what's coming, which is going to be 2.7K of all-out, full-throttle climbing to the finish line. So the points have been distributed here, and it's going to be 240 for Hexagon versus 310 for Toyota Cryo. Nathan.
50-point difference. Looking at the stack up pretty quickly. If they are able to, you grab 10 points with each place, right? So this situation here is like first place, second place, maybe they get 190, then you start gaining a lot. Hexagon, they've got a lot to work with here. If they are the stronger team, I think on paper they are the stronger team, perhaps, when it does come to hill climbing. That is why they got beat out in a lot of the sprints later on. When you do those neuromuscular punches over and over and over again, and if you get those big rests like we saw there, I just have a feeling that perhaps Toyota Cryo DT brought, as we saw, a 16 watt per kilogram kick there from Gavaris at the end. They've got a lot of punch. I have a feeling that Hexagon, they may be able to stack the front end of this and bring back those 50 points. We might see a very close battle here in the final race. They still got to bring it to the table and prove it, because we saw Christoph Thiem out the back early. him as well as Almeida, who has a extremely strong FDP. So I have a feeling we're going to see those two shine a lot more than we saw in this race just now.
I would agree. I don't know that you could necessarily just flip the results on this one, but it's going to be something like that. Christoph will certainly be a rider to watch. If you look at that Toyota Cryo team, and this, when you talk about experience, it's an interesting thing because you can't fault Hexagon for not having been there 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, this is one of the teams that has riders that were dominating in the Premier League in ZRL. Their first group climbing type guys. So I look at the start list here for Toyota Cryo, and it's hard to imagine that three of these guys don't finish in the top four in my mind. That being said, Hexagon is all about the upset, Nathan. They are here to shock the world, just like with Ceres No Pins, and I was saying their backs were against the wall in the hill climb. I feel the same thing for Hexagon here. They're going to need to make a statement on this climb. So we're going to have a chance to look at some replays here of the racing that just happened with our elimination race out there. It clearly didn't go Hexagon's way, but Nathan, it wasn't that bad either, to tell you the truth. It wasn't a disaster out there for Hexagon.
Yeah, the way I look at this here is that Toyota Cryo, they were on the offensive a little bit here. It seemed like Martin Meriton's continually attacking, putting that first spot through, and then a battle at the back for these eliminations each time. I have a feeling that coming into this next race, as we see the not necessarily complete domination, but definitely points scored to Toyota Cryo DT, now it's about defending their position, right? They are in command at this point, and they can not have to risk quite as much as far as the resources that they have, as we've seen the risk happens here, right? They're risking a lot here. They're putting a lot on the table. The bets have paid off here at this point. They've put them 50 points ahead, and now they need to defend that advantage. So with the resources that they have, they don't have to risk a ton of them up front to try and get this massive lead and try and walk away with it. Now they just need to hold on and make sure they mark moves over the top of the hill climb, especially if they do feel that Hexagon may be the stronger climbers.
Yeah, I think it's actually 70 points is the advantage, but you're 100% correct when you look at the difference here for Hexagon is they've got to attack and get gaps and start to literally pour it on out there. They can't afford to go toe to toe at this point with Cryo. They've got to make a move, and I think they need to build up a buffer at Nathan after what we just saw. I don't think they even want to go into our final race here of the three as a points race even. I think they need to take an advantage into that final race to have a real crack at winning ultimately the big prize here, which is the Knockouts Champion on Zwift. First ever Knockouts Champion. So Hexagon, they need to definitely rise up to the occasion, and that's what it's all about. That's what it's been about for this French team. No question. They've answered every time that they've been called to the ring. Can they do it here in round 2 of 3? This is going to be, I think, the biggest moment in their team's history here.
I wonder if we're going to see something similar to what we saw in the women's race, where one rider just went up the road and said, look, I'm the strongest climber here. Are we going to have something where we've got 2 really, really strong climbers or 4 really strong climbers battling it out at the front? I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit more parity at the very pointy end. And then you might end up with a group or 2 behind that are battling out for those minor placings. But you'll have the pure climbers just say, okay, we know who's going head to head. They've done their research. You know that they have combed through Zwift Power to find out, okay, what exactly is this person's power profile? What do they got that they're bringing to the table? Who are we going to try and match up? What wheels are you going to follow? And very early on, I think, when they do start to kick off at that little yellow marker, when things really start at the Alpe Zwift on that first climb up, it's very, very steep. It's one of the steepest sections of the entirety of this course. And I have a feeling that you're going to know exactly who's marked who because they know each other so well.
Details, so important. That's why reconnoitering is a big part of racing, knowing what you've got ahead of you. It's been awesome having Hannah Walker with us to explain all of our racing. Now, this one, there's some critical details here. You've got the pacing to remember, and that's where our riders are right now. You can see they're 3.5K from the start. They've been going at a 2.5 watts per kilo pace right now. So it's enough that they're working out here. But What better time than right now to hear from Hannah Walker on how things are going to be playing out for our men as they're on the hill climb?
We have another first for Zwift Knockouts, a hill climb. Starting at the pens next to the windmills, the riders will have a neutral, a 5-kilometre rollout down into the jungle as they head towards the start line of Alpe d'Huez. At the foot of the climb, the riders will be given all clear to start racing, and over the next 2.7 kilometres, 255 metres of elevation and 6 corners, they will race to see who can get to the finish line first.
Well, it sounds straight ahead, Nathan, but this one has to hurt the most, I would think. You know, doing the sprints lap after lap, that's a different kind of pain than what you experience on a hill climb like this. Even though it's 2.7K of actual intense effort, I think they're digging deeper than they ever have in the knockouts during this very unique hill climb event.
Yeah, I mean, don't let it deceive you one bit, the amount of effort that you have in front of you if you are going to take this event on. If you were going to take this event on, I mean, you've got, each one of those turns, everything you can put on the table to the top here, whether or not you get a gap and then managing your effort, riding your own race or chasing someone down. When it comes to somebody just trying to break you on those sections, you know that they are working, and there's as much pain as you are. And sometimes this is just a mental game. Who's going to crack? Where are those cracks going to start to appear in each one of the riders? And whether or not you can capitalize on somebody if they're on the back foot. Then there's the question in your head is, are they just riding my wheel? Am I putting too much down at this point? I mean, there's a lot of chess that gets played on a climb like this. If people do stay together and are following wheels, there is so many questions running through these riders' heads as they put these efforts down and risk it to try and win.
And don't be deceived. It's not just about the rider that wins or on the podium. A lot of times these battles, and this is where every rider in the ZRL or knockouts matters, because it's going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place where so many points are distributed. And it's a little bit underneath the radar, but these are the riders that ultimately win or lose the knockouts for your team. We're about ready to launch these riders. They're about 1.8K from having the pacing bot pulling off. These pacing bots, if you're not already out there on Zwift, are very familiar. A lot of folks love riding with these bots. It's a little bit different now, as this is a battle royale that our pacing bot is leading our riders into. Nathan, Alpe d'Huez, one of the more notorious climbs, and you were saying that this sector that they're on is one of the most challenging sectors that they race here today.
Yeah, it definitely is. Right from the get-go, you're looking at red gradients. You're up into the 15, 16% gradient. I think it might get even higher than that. So, I mean, it is extremely intense, right? And it's a long run, actually. A couple of the switchbacks, a little bit shorter. As you get to the back end of this 2.7K or so, you do end up with some sharper turns, and it gets a little bit more intense as far how it levels out. There'll be a little bit more tactics if riders are together, but up front, this is just a grind. Just you're just all out into this high percentage of a gradient for a very solid couple of minutes through the first 2 switchbacks. So very interested to see how it plays out here in those first switchbacks, because that's really where things are going to be decided for who's going to be with who on this climb.
The riders all know that they need to be behind that pacing bot as they rapidly come up on the start moment here. It's about almost 8K of actual riding, but race proper, 2.7K. It's all uphill. It's all brutal, and it's all on the line here in Zwift Knockouts. You can watch that countdown there. That's the meters ticking down as they rapidly come up on the start point. So the pacing bot, it doesn't necessarily pull off, but they go blasting. You know you're not having a great day if you can't get past the pacing bot. Let's put it that way.
Pacing yourself, pacing. I hear him pacing. It reminds me here of what we saw from Van Houweling. Will we see somebody walk away enough, or Curie, where they'll be able to reserve something for the next race? Remember, everybody, it's not necessarily about how much you win by, but whether or not you just place correctly to get the points that you need. You may see some of these riders here say, I've got this position, and watch for that tactical play to reserve energy, because we still have a points race after this back out on Crit City.
Yeah, this is an omnium, not a stage race. Even though there's three separate races happening, they are all scored on points. And speaking of points, that's what we've got coming up in our final of three race. But let's go into gameplay now, as this is it, folks. Hexagon, the French squad, presented by Ceres, going up against Toyota Cryo RDT. Battle Royale, that was the start line. We are racing, and it looks like Toyota Cryo and Christoph Team, the German rider, first eliminated. He's obviously motivated, and it looks like Toyota Cryo is going to strike. We are in the mouth of the wolf now, Nathan, as that's Harvard Geldis, the Norwegian, up and out of the saddle. He's already got a gap. So, all right, Nathan, Toyota Cryo taking first blood.
9 watts per kilogram. Harvey Delding showing us he is a monster climber. He's almost got a smile on his face here, going right from the get-go. And this is one of the most old school racers, and I'm loving to see this because this is his wheelhouse. I've raced with him. I've commentated on him for years, actually, coming over as a guest rider from the Fusion ECT team over to Toyota Cryo DT, and this is a great pickup for them. 7 watts per kilogram continues on. Julian Sutton looking to follow this up, and it looks like they're just wondering, is this way over his ability to hold on to? Will he settle down? Questions, alarm bells need to be going off in the minds right now of Hexagon.
You have to think that this guy's 5-minute power on Zwift is out of this stratosphere. And I would have to say, to answer your question, this guy can rock and roll this one, Nathan. He is a superstar in esports. So the Norwegian Geldis, now he is going to settle down. I mean, nobody's going to stay at that rate forever. He's nuclear level talent out here. So Geldis, then Julien Souton is going to be second wheel. This is going to really string out here. It is an OSS situation. Only the strong survive here on the Alp to Zwift. My heart goes out to these guys, Nathan. They really are digging deep. We're going in with Hexagon, presented by Ceres rider. Tony Lemler is the Frenchman that we're looking at, staying seated. Actually, as I say that, he gets up and out of the saddle now, just eking out every watt that he can right now. Here we go, Nathan. There are 2 kilometers of racing remaining. Geldnis on the front.
Lemler fading, as you can see there, 4.1 watts per kilogram. He's cracked. He is cracked. They see the chinks in the armor now early on. Navarro now trying to chase things down as well, but Navarro now fading off of Gavaris' wheel. Man, Toyota Cryo DT just nailing this one, but Julien Souton, he has made it to the front here. He's countering this effort. He has covered it well, but he's up against 3 of the strongest riders in Zwift racing history right now. Geldin's theme is there, as well as Van den Eekhout. I mean, it's a 2v3 now situation here, Dave. Now 4 riders, actually. Pierre Almeida has made it here. This is going to be interesting, Dave. Will they be able to bring back some points and some time here? Because now the counter comes from Bart over the top.
Wow, this is very active. Just keep reshuffling that deck over and over and over here on the climb. 1.7K to go. Bart van den Eekhout, Martin Mertens, Christoph Team, Julien Souton is the first of the Hexagon riders. So they're definitely behind the 8 ball right now here on this severe climb. Nathan, oh man, Toyota Cryo putting on a climbing clinic right now here in Watopia.
Yeah, as you can see, they've completely taken over the front. And I feel, it seems to me they feel comfortable with what they've done as well. Look at Martin Mertens, just head down, getting the work done. He doesn't look like he's under intense pressure. He just knows what he needs to do at this point. He comes over the top of the attack there from Harvard Gelding. That was actually a setup. They forced Julien to chase. They forced Pierre Almeida, who are their 2 stronger climbers here on Hexagon. Obviously, they have made that cover. But now, after the cover here comes the kill. Martin Mertens here over the top. Christoph Thiem following right there, but this is amazing tactics from Toyota Cryo DT, continuing to try and make matches burn, put them on the back foot, and then capitalize on that effort.
Yeah, Julien Souton had to feel like Han Solo the moment that he realizes that this is a trap. This is a trap. Oh, man, because they are coming with old school fury right now. Martin Mertens, I got to give Souton credit. He might be the best climber on planet Earth today, as he has withstood this barrage here from Cryo RDT. And he is not only still standing, he's looking to punish them now. This is quite a ride from Julien Souton, but he needs his teammates to pick up the pace pace, Nathan, because he cannot do this alone. He's holding on to second, but look at third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. It's all Toyota Cryo. They're holding on to 5 of the 6 top spots, and that's the name of the game as we rapidly come up on 1K to go. Hexagon has got to pick up the pace here at the back of the group. This is not good.
Look at the suffering. Look at the suffering, Dave. Sultan is on the back foot now at this point, covering Mertens here, as now Christoph Thiem looks to come across as well and follow his teammate, but now it's a battle between Julian at the front and Martin Mertens, as Mertens put himself actually out the back door, as Julian goes over the top, maybe sensing a little bit of a chink in the armor of the continual attacks of Toyota Cryo DT. Christoph Thiem looks to come across to his teammate. There will be some working together most likely here. Look at how fast they're already within 850 meters. This is insane pace, Dave. I don't know if I've ever seen this kind of power put out on Zwift before.
Yeah, that's great, but what's really important is that Almeida do something here along with O'Connor. P6 needs to move up into P4, and it's going to be Martin Mertens now taking advantage of Julian Sultan, putting his heart on the line as Martin Mertens now has moved into the lead. That's first and second. That goes up the road. But look at spots 3, 4, and 5. That is all Toyota Cryo. This league, knockouts, is based on team strength, and Toyota Cryo is dominating on this hill climb right now. Absolutely dominating here.
Yeah, it looks to be a closed deal with the time gaps at this point. All it is Julian Sultan, who has made this front group, but he's surrounded by nothing but the light blue and white of Toyota Cryo DT at this point. They have really put the nail in the coffin with these two riders, Christoph Thiem, Martin Mertens, and then right behind there, it is going to be Van den Ackhout and Brad Geveris, who have walked away even from Almeida. Almeida only has Zeldins with him at this point, and Zeldin seemed to be just sitting on his wheel, and I have a feeling that Zeldin's just following him. As you can see, 7th place at the bottom of the screen there. He's sitting on Pierre Almeida's wheel, just watching him, making sure he doesn't get the better of him. They might stack 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th, most likely, it looks like, or even take better if Julian Sultan cannot get the better of these front riders.
Ultimately, it's depth of team that we've really learned is how you win in the knockouts. Both of the Swedish Swifters and Cryo have been around a long time. They've got a tremendous amount of experience, and even though this is a brand new, super fresh format, clearly their institutional knowledge that they've had on these teams has made a huge difference out here. This hill climb is being absolutely crushed by Toyota Cryo right now. They're now holding on to P1, P2, P4, and P5. That's where all of the points are. To be honest with you, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's an afterthought. This one is a done deal. Martin Mertens is going to come through, Nathan. I'll throw it to you as he's going to take the win and the 100 points that go with it.
And they settle right on into 1st and 2nd place here. They can back off and rest the legs. Julian Sultan needs to be thinking a little bit about Bart Van den Ackhout behind him, but he can just kind of settle down, and he is going to do just that. Roll himself across the line, conserve a little bit of energy as Hill rolls for 3rd. 80 points, though, that's not a whole lot here being added to the total as Bart Van den Ackhout takes down 70 and extends the lead. Here comes Brad Geveris. Cryo DT have to be very happy with this performance. Pierre Almeida looking to at least get the better of Zeldins behind as they battle it out for these last points across the line.
Yeah, every point's going to matter, but unfortunately, it's a table of diminishing points. Oh, that's big right there. That might be the nail in the coffin on this one as we watch that surge from the early Rabbit Havad Gelness coming through. We're going to bring everybody home, give them a chance to reload, put a little charge on the battery as we've got one final event to look forward to as our final riders are on the climb here in Watopia. The Alp de Zwift certainly did its damage out here. It's got to be tough, Nathan, to recover so quickly to get back out into the points race format that we have to wrap things up for the men here.
Yeah, and it looks like it will be Callum O'Connor, Tony Lemner, and Corentin Navarro making their way to the line still. And at this point, Dave, I don't believe that there's any time cutoff or anything. So essentially, the only advantage they get at this point is to take it easy.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. There is sort of an understanding of not crystal cranking it. So, I mean, you could take 20 minutes to finish this climb and give everybody a chance to recover, but that's not in the spirit of the competition. So the teams have all signed up with an understanding that they'll ride it out, which they have, and we appreciate that certainly. Um, but you make a great point. Toyota Cryo, though, Nathan, look at the advantage that they've got going into the final race. The riders will have a chance to reset here as Navarro will be the final rider out on course. But that was a clinic, to put it mildly, from Toyota Cryo out here, really opening up a huge gap heading into our third and final race of the Knockout Series.
Lemner, I mean, you can see how cracked Tony is here at this point. I mean, there's
Yeah,
not
that
a
doesn't
whole
look
lot
super
left. I mean,
fun.
you hit the wall.
No.
No,
Yeah.
big wall hit here. It'll be a last turn as he comes around the corner here. His teammate, Navarro, about 20 seconds behind as they just keep the legs warm. 3.3 watts per kilogram, a little under tempo most likely for the level that these riders ride at. And he is going to be starting to think about what is in front of them for this final in just a moment. They'll collect 20 and 10 points respectively, so it'll bump it over the 400 mark up to a 420 to 680, though. Big gaps have opened up here now, Dave, and they will need to be the most dominating force we've ever seen in a race. I don't know if it's impossible, but the kind of stacking of the front end of the points they would have to do, it essentially have to be first through fifth, I think, almost every time, or at least something close to that to come close to bringing these points back.
And I think, Nathan, I'm going to circle back to what you were talking about a few minutes ago about pride. And these riders have pride in spades, no doubt about it. And I would expect, even if there's not enough points left for them to win, they're still going to race that final race as if they're in the hunt. And it does speak to the heart of a racer as we bring Corentin Navarro across the line here as the French rider will finish things up. Hexagon has had an amazing run to get to this point. They could be awfully proud of what they've done. Going up against Toyota Cryo out here, it's just a murderer's row of riders. There's just no weak link on that team, just like the Swedish Swifters. It's all about team, and that's what Toyota Cryo has been. That's their forte today. Harvard Gelness sacrificed himself there, going out as the rabbit and putting some real pressure on Hexagon and ended up catching them out a little bit, Nathan. That's some good racing. That's comprehensive team racing from Toyota Cryo, and it's hardly a surprise.
Yeah, talk about an amazing tactic. Throwing that sacrifice out there. I thought Zeldin was going for the win outright. He could have, if they allowed it to go, but it, like you said, completely blew up Hexagon trying to make the chase. They panicked a little bit. They hit the panic button, and along with it, they jettisoned all the effort that they had for the back end of the race. The counter came through, and Toyota Cryo DT just took over. It goes to show that strategy definitely matters in a hill climb situation like this as well. It isn't just strongest man go.
More credit than I gave to the strategy. Certainly, Nathan. That's a very good point. As oftentimes it's not the attack that wins a race, it's the counter off the counter off the counter. Let's look at the points that we've got now in our Zwift Knockouts. They're 2/3 of the way through this final day of racing. It's been 4 weeks now. There've got to be some heavy legs with everything going on in these riders' lives. 420 points is the total right now for our Hexagon, presented by Sarah's team. That you can see what they've got to make up there to get to 680, where Toyota Cryo RDT sits here. So in the driver's seat, to say the least, but you can still expect a very exciting final points race here. Same format as we saw for the women. We'll be giving 15 points. Well, actually, we take a lap off. We'll let them get out on course, get their legs underneath them, and then we'll start the sprinting format. It's not elimination. Everybody will stay out on course, but we will be distributing points. 15 for the first rider over the line, 12 for second, 10 for third, on down to the final rider. Nathan, double points at the finish, but ultimately, I think we're just in a straight up points race battle here.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I would say is that there is a big disparity, on the points that come on through 15, 12, 10, and 8. And then the big drop off from, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is extreme. And so there's, hope, right? But the hope is only in the points at this point, is that there's a reality of it, right? It can be done. Now, whether or not, mathematically it can be done. Well, let's see what Hexagon, can they pull off a miracle? They've done it before, but I'm not sure about this level of a miracle.
I got to be honest, it reminds me of the movie Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying I've got a chance then, 1 in a million? I got a chance. And I think that's pretty close. So that's why what I'm saying here, Nathan, is the reality is let's just get out there and turn it into an old-fashioned bike race, right? You don't have to necessarily worry about now winning the knockouts. I think that ship might have sailed, but expect a great points race.
It might actually have some more gloves taken off here, where Hexagon just goes, all right, caution to the wind. It's time to pull the backup tactics and just start throwing riders off left and right. No more scarcity. We're not going to sit around and wait for anything. Let's just take the race to them. It might just play into Toyota Carnegie's hand. They only need to be defensive right now, and I'm feeling that they're going to do that.
I guess the sporting equivalent, Nathan, might relate to your neck of the woods in Wisconsin there. This is the hockey equivalent of pulling the goalie at this point, right? You're going to need to just give everything you've got. No defense, all offense, a Hail Mary time. We're only a couple minutes away. I hope they go for it. Why not, right? Win or go down in flames. I think that certainly that mindset in esports, you got nothing to lose at this point, that's for sure. So Hexagon has had a tremendous season. Just making into this final is a big, big deal for that squad as we're inside of 3 minutes to race. But we will hear from Hannah Walker one more time. A big thank you to Hannah for all that she's been able to help us understand. So before we go there, Nathan, Toyota Cryo, they've been in the world of esports probably about as long as you have.
Yeah, actually, they have been around from almost the beginning. A lot of these riders actually that are on the team have been around from pretty much around that time. So they've got obviously the depth of field. You can see this team is extremely experienced. The tactics, we talked about this, in the hill climb. We thought, strongest man, they're going to end up with some parity between some riders, maybe not so many tactics, just go for it, and they proved us wrong. Jeldon's going off the front there, coming over from that Callis team, who is also one of the most experienced teams, longest standing teams, as well as another team that has ran massive amounts of community races for a long time. They know what they're doing. Send him off the front, and that chase, like we said, ended up in that situation where a tactic ended up maybe being one of the winning moves. Now, with the hockey thing there, they probably wish they could pull the goalie, that a 6-man could come in and maybe try and grab a penalty out of the team. Ended up in a 6v4 and a full press. I think full press is going to be the reality, though. They got to go full press.
Our production team is going to be on the lookout for a 6th rider showing up out there for sure. That would be quite a moment in esports history, wouldn't it? But that's not going to happen here. We're locked down with the 5. So, Nathan,
are we asking for a new power-up? Are we asking for a new power-up? Pull the goalie power-up. Pull the goalie.
Best teammate. Yeah, that might be what it takes. So I want to thank everybody who's been along this ride with us here as we're about to head into our final race here for the men of the 3 that make up this event. We've been really honored to have Hannah Walker as part of our team, and I'm going to throw it to Hannah now for our final explainer here for Zwift Knockouts. Take it away, Hannah.
The points race is on the Bell Lap in Crit City with 4 laps of the 1.9 kilometre circuit. Lap 1 is a sighting lap with no points available, but expect to see a high pace from the gun as points will be scored at both the climb and lap arches on laps 2, 3 and 4. It'll be interesting to see what the tactics the teams employ, as there are also double points available on the finish line. As this is the points race, the team who scores the most points wins.
All right, here we go. Locked and loaded one final time. Good luck to Hexagon, presented by Saris. And congratulations on a great season as the French riders are up against these monsters in white and blue. Toyota Cryo. They should name the next model of Toyota car the Cryo RDT, Nathan, after this performance from their
That'd be a
squad.
sweet name.
Wouldn't it? I'd buy a Cryo as long as it came in a 4-door manual.
A little bit of a kick here right from the get-go. Lebner, as you can see, 3.1 watts per kilogram. And I thought maybe it was going to try and make a move, but it looks like it's going to settle right on down. Now again, a little bit of different course here. The Bell Lap here, Dave, it is not going to be at all like the punch over the cobbles that we see in downtown Dolphin. Instead, you have these rollers that they're going through right on into a false flat on some cobbles. It can cause a lot more damage if riders do want to attack and try and get away over this climb. As we have 7.3 kilometers to go. No points up for grabs for this first lap. So it's just a look at the course, get an idea of the corners, and then there's the flatlands of this course, the section where there's a lot of turns, and we saw Team Zwifters take full advantage of that. Will we see any differences here between these two teams, and will Hexagon have an advantage in that section? That's going to be a question to answer. That's going to be answered in a moment, and it's still in my mind, though, here because of that section of course.
These teams have raced in this format already in the knockout series. The points race here, again, 15 points for the first rider over the line when they are sprinting. It's clearly they are not sprinting right now, as Nathan said. They got to work their way into it as they make their way over the cobble sector here. Looks like we're going to go pretty straight ahead right into this one, Nathan. Nothing too fancy from either team here.
Yeah, left-hand turn, as you can see here, and then it will be the flats as they come rolling right on down. A little bit of a roll-through of speed from Hexagon as their four riders make their way to the middle of the pack. Toyota still on the front, though. They will take a right-hand turn and a little bit of an uphill bump in just a moment here, as you can see them heading over toward the esports stage. I'll call it, with the left-hand turn. It'll be on the right-hand side in just a second. And this is a little bit of a false flat that they roll through right here. Left-hand turn, and it gets real windy in just a moment. Kind of a snake on through before the sharp right, and about 50 meters to the line. No sprint again. This is just a warm-up lap to figure out where things are at and allow the riders to position themselves for the final laps for the points.
Every rider will score points. Just such a difference when you're at the pointy end of the group versus the back end out here. The first sprint will tell us a lot about what the teams have in mind out here. But again, it looks like they're going to be sprinting straight up now. I was expecting Hexagon to try to pull a rabbit out of a hat, but nothing so far here, Nathan.
Yeah, right-hand turn, as you can see, and now the questions are going to start being answered as they start the first lap that does have points on it. I do see a rider there from Hexagon moving up on the left here. Little bit of a bump in the wattage, but going to back on off. They were not actually looking to take over or attack in the front. Thought perhaps a little speed rolling through, but no, Toyota Cryo team continue to man the front of this peloton. Left sharp 180-degree turn right into the rolling uphill as they start their way toward that first banner in a second. Really, the pressure should start right around now if anybody wants to make a move.
So, and it looks like Toyota Cryo's pretty comfortable going on defense right now. Or maybe not defense, but not offensive either, as they're just happy to tick the kilometers by at this point as they are riding their way into what they hope to be the first ever Knockouts Championship for Toyota Cryo. Hexagon is going to be looking for a miracle out here as they start to mass on the front. Here we go, Nathan. Feel the energy starting to lift now for our points race. Get your pencils out. We're not that far off from starting to score them here.
Invisibility power up being launched here from way out. That's going to be Bart Vandenek out here, and it's been over and over again. The catching out of Hexagon. And only 3.6 watts per kilogram from Julian. Julian not even responding. He gets a solid 4 or 5 seconds. That is not going to be brought back. Easily taking top points. Brad Gaveras coming on with 14.9 watts per kilogram, leading things out. Second across the line. Hexagon are able to stack third and fourth, it looks like, as well as sixth place. But it looks like, again, a dominating performance coming on through from Toyota Car DT. Definitely defending their current lead.
Yeah, and every time a sprint goes by like that, it just gets that much closer to victory for Toyota Cryo out here. Hexagon putting some guys back on the front. You can see the steamroller power-up, one of the unique power-ups that we don't see all that often out here, which turns any surface into the equivalent of smooth tarmac for a brief 30-second period here. But ultimately, this is the Tête de la Course, the front group now. This will go by very, very quickly here. The sprints come in rapid order.
Yeah, they come very quickly. For a moment there, I did see Vandena cut off the back. I thought perhaps they were going to look for a little bit of a counter at 1 second, but they backed right on off. Was no interest in that. They are looking for just straight up sprints. A little bit surprising me, but maybe they do have that confidence in that sprint. And they really want to try and take advantage of that. Callum O'Connor, as you can see, 0.3 watts per kilogram. It's almost a standstill. And they just continue to get the jump. You know, this is really Toyota Cryo DT knowing the gameplay, it seems like to me. They continue to take it to what seems to be a timid Hexagon as they come to the line. And Hexagon do stack the top spots a little bit here more. It does look like, well, pretty even, as you see. It's just going to be that 5 and 4 points. But, man, it just seems like Toyota Cryo DT are on the offensive, and they just continue to jab, and knock out each one of these points.
Yeah, at this point, it's like watching a cat playing with the mouse in the corner of the room, right? They're doing what they do so well. Hexagon will be learning a lot out here about the very, very high end of esports racing from a team as accomplished as Toyota Cryo.
Big counter here, Julian Sutan. It's going to be Pierre Almeida. They go right over the top here, it looks like, and they do have a gap. It's an 8 watt per kilogram gap. It looks like, is there going to be a response from team? It looks like perhaps they were waiting for a little bit of tired legs there from the rest of Toyota Cryo DT. Hardy Jaldin's looking to come across here, but it looks like, I believe Hexagon are easily going to take the 1-2. Oh, they got to hold on the line. No, they fade. It was not well timed. Only Pierre Almeida is able to hold on, and there we go. Toyota Cryo DT continuing to show us their experience, even with a great counter from the French team Hexagon, but unable to keep on the gas, and they end up being overtaken at the line there.
There's no sport like cycling, Nathan, to really show you, or to humble you, I would have to say. And right now for Hexagon, I think that moment has come where they realize they've had their way with every team that they've raced against up to this point. This is out of the norm for them. And certainly this is how you build character in cycling as well. Everybody has these moments in cycling where you realize that, you know, every now and then you meet your match. And today, Toyota Cryo is proving that they are one of the best esports teams of all time. New format, but same old, meet the new boss. It's the same as the old boss, Nathan. When you talk about Toyota Cryo, these Frenchmen will not lie down. A lot of esprit de corps on this team. And this one looks like it's going to be Callum O'Connor who's going to jump out. So he's going to give Cryo a taste of their own medicine out here, Nathan.
Gets a little bit ahead of it. It looks like he's going to hold on, like you said there, Dave. And those corners, you get ahead of them and carry speed through. Very hard to shut things down. Martin Mertens coming on through with Brad Gavaris there when it comes to the field sprint. Harvard Zeldin.
Look at that, though. Toyota
they just continue to stack.
Yeah, when you add the points up, that one was advantage. It's almost a 300-point advantage right now for Toyota Cryo. So they're setting records out here. But the Hexagon team will be back. No question in my mind that we're going to see these guys come back stronger. But look at Toyota just mob all over the front of this chase group as O'Connor riding off the front. We've got 1.5K left here in our Zwift Knockouts, Nathan. It's all come down to this.
And this is all for pride here at this point, trying to just win the bike race outright for what is not a scratch race out here today, but they're still the first across the line for the final line. And so Callum O'Connor may be going for that. He is being covered here by Harvard Zeldin. It's actually Julian Sutan goes over the top here, his teammate, and they're going to take the top point spot, it looks like, as it's 1.2K to go. Only one more line, and that is the final finish line. Toyota Cryo team with Christoph Thiem. We saw a big smile on his face just a moment ago, and they could be happy as could be, as it looks like they will be winning the championship here for the first ever Zwift Knockouts. Are they going to swarm at the end and take it down, or will there be a little bit of something left for the pride of Hexagon?
Well, events are judged by the quality of their champions, Nathan, and I'd have to say for Zwift Knockouts that it's nice to be world class, and that's certainly what Toyota Cryo and Team Swedish Swifters are all about. And let's see if they've got a flourish for the finale, as it looks like Toyota Cryo is on the move again. Relentless racing has been the name of the game. It's been body blow after body blow for 4 weeks, a solid month of racing, and I think that they want to go out putting a cherry on top of the Sunday, Nathan, as the German Martin Mertens has hit out with authority here, and this might be it.
Absolutely love it. Martin Mertens has been such an asset to this team. Look what he's doing here. 8.5 goes on the attack, goes to show you what kind of talent that CryoDT are, and they are going to be your winners. First across the line here as well in the final here, but it's all about the totals from the points. It is going to be Julian Sutton followed up by Pierre Almeida. They get some points here for the doubles at the end, but it's not even close to anything that's going to matter. Toyota CryoDT with a dominating performance, almost with champagne in hand at this point, as they are your winners of the first ever Zwift Knockouts. Toyota CryoDT.
Yeah, congratulations to both of our winning teams. It was quite a run, no doubt about it. A big thank you to all of the teams, Nathan, that have taken part in Zwift Knockouts. They've been tremendous in their feedback as we look to craft a whole new style of racing. And I have to say, it's been a tremendous success. We've had an absolute blast along the way. I look forward to a lot more Zwift Knockout style racing. So as we wrap things up, Nathan, after 4 weeks of racing, I'd love to hear your thoughts in retrospect as we look back on 4 weeks of knockouts.
Well, I look at the, a lot of the comments that have come on through and a lot of the hype that's come through. Some of the most excitement we've ever seen around watching Zwift racing has obviously been there. I also have seen with the teams and the chatter between the teams, some of the messages that I've gotten, there's a lot of hunger to get back involved in this. Wait a second. I want another shot at this. And the high intensity, the kind of adrenaline pump that keeps on coming at you over and over and over again. The racers feel that obviously just as much as we do, or more so than we do. And I think those kinds of moments are really what sports are all about. And so looking back at this, I think we've really, come upon something here. We've stumbled upon something here that's got a lot of excitement, a lot of potential within the world of Zwift racing. I'm super excited where this takes esports.
I agree, Nathan. No fluff, all action. We get right down to it. And it seems like no matter who you are, a spectator or a racer, this is what we've been looking for. So the proof is in the pudding. Let's take a look at our results here after 4 weeks of racing. And the top of the table, wow, a dominant 927 points for our champions, Toyota Cryo RDT. They are the gold standard on our men's side. A silver standard for Hexagon presented by Ceres. But these French riders, this team will be back. They certainly impressed a lot of us along the way. And they'll have their moment, certainly. Spirit, a big part of what we witnessed out here. As we say congratulations to our championship squads, Team Swedish Swifters and Toyota Cryo RDT on the men's side of things. For all of our production team at Zwift and my colleague, Nathan Guerra, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute blast to have you with us for the knockouts. Right on. We'll see you out on Zwift.